Chapter 1186. Where would Kirsten be hiding? Charlotte quickly scanned the entire factory. The Friendship mining factory was not beyond his effective range of vision. Other than some places where he couldn't see through, he completed a second scan of the entire factory in less than a minute. He couldn't find Kirsten in the entire factory. Kirsten might be hiding in a place that couldn't be seen through, but the possibility of that wasn't high. But if he wasn't in the factory, then where would he be hiding? After completing a second scan of the entire factory, Charlotte gave up and continued to walk to the warehouse. He really wanted to kill Kirsten, but there was something more important than killing Kirsten, which was to rescue the hostages and get information about the rare metals from the hostages. Charlotte appeared from behind the side wall of the warehouse, and the two CIB agents guarding the door immediately noticed him. "Hey, why are you here?" A CIB agent questioned Charlotte cautiously. Almost all the Special Forces were out on the battlefield, but a Delta Special Forces soldier appeared here. This was enough to arouse the suspicion of the two CIB agents. Charlotte didn't say anything and continued to walk forward. "Stop!" The CIB agent who questioned Charlotte reached for his gun. A knife suddenly stabbed into the back of the CIB agent who was about to pull out his gun. He turned around in fear and saw his colleague looking at him expressionlessly. The knife that stabbed into his heart from the back was in his colleague's hand. This was the last scene he would see in his life. The CIB agent who killed his colleague dragged his colleague's body out of the warehouse. After dragging the body out of the door, he turned around and opened the shutter door of the warehouse. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Inside the warehouse, a CIB agent asked. The CIB agent who opened the door didn't answer but walked straight to the electrical box. He opened the power distribution box and reached out to grab the switchblade. What are you doing?" The CIB agent who asked the question walked over and tried to stop him. Because they were familiar with each other, he didn't pull out his gun. The CIB agent who opened the door suddenly pulled the switch, and the entire warehouse was plunged into darkness. "Bastard! Close the switch!" Someone cursed in the darkness. Puff, 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 bullets flew through the warehouse, and each bullet reaped a life. The lives of the CIB field agents were harvested. Their eyes suddenly entered a dark environment, and before they could adapt, they were killed by Charlotte, who rushed in, one by one. A minute later, the lights in the warehouse came back on. All the CIB field agents were lying in pools of blood, none of them able to move. The Chinese employees who were imprisoned in the warehouse looked at the U.S. Special Forces soldier in horror. They thought their doomsday had arrived and that the butcher would kill them as well. But at that moment they heard the voice of the Special Forces soldier speaking in Chinese. "Don't be afraid, I'm here to save you," Charlotte said. A large group of hostages immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Some collapsed to the ground, while others used their sleeves to wipe the cold sweat off their foreheads. In this short period of time, they felt as if they had slipped through the gates of hell and then returned to the human world. "Can we leave this place now?" someone in the crowd asked. Charlotte said, "Not yet. There are still many U.S. Special Forces and armed personnel from Boca's sacred land outside. If you go out now, they will shoot you on the spot." The group of hostages immediately burst into discussion. Charlotte said, "Be quiet. If you want to live, you have to cooperate with me." The noisy scene suddenly quietened down. Nothing was more important than survival. Charlotte continued, "Who is in charge?" Strangely, no one stepped forward. Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "Who is Shintu Weiying?" A sweet-looking young woman with a good figure stood up, looking timid. Charlotte was slightly stunned because Shintu Tianyin said that Shintu Weiying was her seventh uncle. Since it was an uncle, it should be a man. Why did a woman step forward? At that moment the woman said, "I'm his secretary. CEO Ing is not here." So it was Shintu Weiying's secretary. Charlotte said, "Where is he?" The woman said, I think he's in the mine." Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. "You're all locked up here. Why would he be in the mine? The woman wanted to say something but stopped. An old man suddenly stood up and said angrily, "He's a traitor! We discovered rare metals, and the Americans found out about it and came here. We've all been beaten up, but he's fine. He went to the mine to bring the Americans to see the rare metals we found." The Shinto family really did not lack the gene for betrayal. There was Shinto before, and now there was Shinto Weiying. The former betrayed Shinto Tianyin, while the latter betrayed the country. He betrayed the country's interest. "Old sir, what's your name?" Charlotte walked towards him and asked politely. "Wu Qiong." The old man introduced himself. "I'm a geologist. I was the one who discovered the rare metal and sent the sample back to China." "Can you talk to me about the rare metal?" Charlotte stopped in front of Wu Qiong. He looked at Wu Qiong and the look in his eyes changed. Wu Qiong said, "The rare metal was found in mine number 13. It's 500 meters deep in the belly of the mountain. I'm not sure about the reserves of the rare metal, and the geological structure of that place is also very complicated. If I were given a little more time, I would be able to figure out what's going on, but everything happened too fast." Before he could finish speaking, Charlotte had already dug out all the information he needed from his brain. The information formed an image in Charlotte's brain. In that image, he became Wu Qiong. A mining tunnel extended in front of him and finally stopped at the bottom of the tunnel. It was a huge black rock that blocked the mining route. Its surface was not smooth and was full of pits. It looked like a huge meteorite. But that was impossible. Wu Qiong had said that the mining mine number 13 was 500 meters deep. How could a meteorite hit 500 meters underground? That kind of impact was enough to destroy the planet. I thought it was a meteorite at the time, but that's impossible, so I tried to knock a piece off. Wu Qiong was still describing. Charlotte was no longer interested in listening. His eyes moved to Shinto Weiying's secretary. The mysterious energy field enveloped the female secretary and synchronized her thoughts. New information also appeared in his brain. He saw Shinto Weiying's appearance. He was a man about 40 years old. He was fair and clean, wore black-rimmed glasses, and looked very gentle. Charlotte also captured a memory of the female secretary. In an office, she squatted under Shinto Tianyin's desk and was busy, while Shinto Weiying was on the phone with someone. It was this phone call that Shinto Weiying sold the information that Friendship Mining Company had found precious rare metals. His buyer was an American, because he mentioned a green card, $50 million, and other conditions of the transaction. After Shinto Weiying ended the call, he pulled the female secretary out from under the desk, pressed her on the desk, and lifted her skirt as Shinto Weiying moved. He said to the female secretary, "The Americans will send someone over tomorrow. You trick Wu Qiong and the people in the lab into the material warehouse. I'll do the rest." The female secretary moaned, moaning seductively. "Will you take me to the United States?" Shinto Weiying said, "Of course, I'm doing all this for us. I'll let that bitch Shinto Tianyin go to hell. I'm working so hard here, but the money I earn is hers. Her assets are already hundreds of billions, and I don't even have 10 million. Then, I'll trick Wu Qiong and the people in the lab into the warehouse tomorrow." The female secretary tried her best to please the man behind her. Shinto Weiying said, "I guess Shinto Tianyin will come. That mysterious metal is a strategic resource, a gold mine. If she comes, I'll ask you to make tea for her. You put the medicine I prepared in her tea, hee. I'll listen to you." Charlotte cleared this messy memory, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Mr. Wu, I already know. There's no need to say anything more." Then he said, "Those who can fight, pick up your weapons. After I leave, close the warehouse door." No one moved. It took a lot of courage to take a gun and fight against CIA agents, the most elite special forces of the United States, and terrorists. Most people didn't have this kind of courage. Charlotte said, "Do you want to live?" Then take a gun and get ready to fight. If you give up, I'll respect your choice. I can tell you with certainty that the Americans will eventually kill all of you and frame the Boca Holy Land militant group for it. You can decide for yourselves what to do. Damn it. I'm going to die anyway. Even if I die, I'll kill at least 2 people. A young man picked up a gun. Then, more people went to pick up the guns. Charlotte said to the female secretary, "Come with me." Go where?" The female secretary looked very nervous. Charlotte said, "Take me to mine 13. I'm not going." The female secretary refused. Charlotte grabbed her arm and dragged her to the warehouse door. "What are you doing? Let me go. You're hurting me." The female secretary was angry and slapped Charlotte's shoulder, but her strength was no different from a mosquito bite to Charlotte. No one intervened and saved the damsel in distress. In such an environment, everyone was in danger. When they walked out of the warehouse, the woman was still arguing. Charlotte's eyes became cold. "If you keep arguing, I'll kill you. Don't think I don't know the deal between you and Shin Tu Weiing." "You?" The female secretary was stunned. She didn't know how Charlotte knew the secret between her and Shin Tu Weiing. "Let's go." Charlotte's voice was also very cold. "I'm not going," the female secretary said. "You don't know anything. Why should I listen to you? Do you have evidence? If you have evidence, go to court and sue me. Go ahead." "Do you think I don't dare to kill you?" "Kill me. Kill me. Do you dare to kill me? You country bumpkin." Charlotte waved his hand, and a cold light swept across the female secretary's neck. Blood spurted from the female secretary's neck. She fell to the ground in horror, clutching her cut neck, and then twitched. Charlotte looked at her expressionlessly and then walked to the office building. There were more than a dozen CIB agents in the office building. Before going to mine 13, he had to clean up the place. Chapter 1187. In the office building, when the last CIB field agent fell in a pool of blood, gunshots and explosions rang out in the forest. Giovanna and the others had already rushed to the battlefield with the veterans from the Rescue Society and joined forces with the Zodiac team to attack Boca Sacred Land and the U.S. Special Forces. Although they were outnumbered, they had better weapons. In addition, each member of the Zodiac team was a super soldier who could take on 10 enemies at once, so the disadvantage in numbers was negligible. Moreover, most of the armed personnel from Boca Sacred Land were a motley crew. They couldn't even beat the veterans from the Rescue Society, let alone the members of the Zodiac team. In fact, after taking care of the Apache helicopter and the Chinook, Charlotte wasn't too worried that the war would develop in the direction he feared. Charlotte left the office building and drove a forklift to the mine. The back door of the factory faced the mining area, and mine 13 was inside. The back door was closed, and there were even cement blocks blocking the way. When the forklift was 50 meters away from the back door, 2 Special Forces soldiers guarding the door rushed out of the guardroom, ready to stop the forklift. Before they could even open their mouths to speak, 2 ghost stones would silently fly over and explode their heads. Charlotte put away the venomous tongue pistol and stepped hard on the accelerator. The forklift lowered the hopper, crashed through the roadblock and back door, and drove toward the mining area. Mine 13 appeared in front of him. It was a very ordinary mine, and there were no special forces or CIB agents guarding the entrance. This situation was somewhat unexpected. Charlotte thought there should be guards, but there weren't. Charlotte stopped the forklift and entered mine 13. He took off the Gale assault rifle on his shoulder. In such an environment, the venomous tongue pistol wouldn't be able to suppress many enemies. The tunnel was silent, and the lights on the walls were on. Charlotte's footsteps on the tracks were silent. The tunnel twisted and turned bit by bit, and he couldn't see the end. Charlotte quickly descended to a depth of about 400 meters. The underground air was very humid, and water dripped from above his head from time to time. He was about to reach the bottom, but he still didn't see a single enemy. As he walked, he took out his satellite phone, but there was no signal at all. Rumble. Suddenly there was an explosion. The shock wave from the explosion rushed up from the bottom of the tunnel, causing the entire tunnel to tremble as if it would collapse at any moment. A rock fell from above his head. Xia Lei dodged to the side and stopped in his tracks. The shock wave from the explosion quickly dissipated, and the tunnel returned to silence. Other than the dripping sound of water, there was no other sound. After a pause, he continued to walk forward. After about 50 meters, he crossed a bend and the bottom of the tunnel entered his line of sight. According to the memories dug out from Wu Qiong's brain, there was a large black rock at the bottom of the tunnel. It looked like a meteorite. Now it had fallen off, revealing a circular hole. The explosion just now was obviously aimed at it, so it could be seen that the person it threw down from the rock wall was not at the bottom of the tunnel. The hole in the rock wall was deep and dark, and he couldn't see what was inside. Charlotte tried to scan the inside of the circular hole with his X-ray vision, but strangely, his X-ray vision failed. When he looked inside, it was like he was swallowed by darkness, and nothing was left. What is this place? Xia Lei's heart was filled with shock. The rare metal sample that Wu Qiong had knocked down was obviously from the spherical black rock, but after it was blown off the rock wall, there was no similar ore. It looked like a spherical barrier that was used to block the passageway. If it wasn't a rare metal mine, but just an obstacle, would the Americans pay such a high price to occupy Friendship Mining? The safest thing to do was to turn around and leave immediately, taking the members of the Zodiac Squad, Giovanna, and the veterans of the rescue club with him. But after hesitating for a moment, Charlotte still walked to the bottom of the tunnel. When he reached the bottom of the tunnel, Charlotte stopped and reached out to touch the circular black rock. A very strange feeling came over him. For some reason, the 6 statues of the faceless warriors suddenly appeared in his mind. He was shocked and secretly thought, is this the material used to make the faceless warrior statues? He couldn't confirm this guess. Charlotte went into the circular tunnel in the rock wall. The inside of the circular tunnel was relatively smooth, and the traces of artificial polishing were also very obvious. It wasn't a natural karst tunnel. A new question was born in Charlotte's mind. Who would dig a tunnel 500 meters underground? He still couldn't find the answer. It was dark in the cylindrical tunnel, and there was no light at all. After a certain distance, the light at the entrance couldn't shine in, and even with Charlotte's eyesight, he had trouble seeing things. He also noticed that there was a very strange energy field in this place. The ability of his left and right eyes was affected by the energy field, and at least half of them were weakened. With no other choice, Charlotte twisted a light stick and continued to walk down with it in his hand. This was very risky, but he had no other choice. After a certain distance, he reached the end of the cylindrical tunnel. In front of him was a huge underground space. It was triangular in shape and looked very similar to the pyramid in the belly of the mountain he found in Jerusalem, just that it didn't have those terrifying human skulls and crystal skulls. The other difference was that the floor of the pyramid here wasn't rock, but water. The still water was like a mirror. Charlotte's position was halfway up, about 50 meters above the water surface. At this height, coupled with the interference of the energy field, he couldn't see the situation in the water at all. Charlotte shifted his gaze to the center of the square water surface. He seemed to see something that looked like an altar, but he still couldn't see it clearly. He raised his hand and threw the light stick down. The light stick spun a few times in the air before landing in the center of the square water surface. It sank into the water, but it only sank for a short distance before stopping. It was a hexagonal stone platform that was submerged in the water. At that moment, a woman lying in the middle of the stone platform appeared in the water. Her skin was as white as jade, her hair as black as ink, her beauty was indescribable. However, Charlotte was afraid because of her, because the woman lying on the underwater stone platform was none other than Zhu Xianyue, Isatab from another corn, the goddess of suicide. Rumble, a deafening sound suddenly came from under the water, and the still water surface also trembled, and then waves rolled. In the roar, the submerged stone platform slowly emerged, bit by bit, bit by bit. Zhu Xianyue, who was lying on the stone platform, also emerged bit by bit. The first to emerge from the water surface were her twin peaks, then her face and lower abdomen, and then her pair of jade legs. She wasn't wearing any clothes, and everything was clearly visible under the light of the light stick, making it impossible to pick out any flaws. If one had to pick out a bone from an egg, it was probably because she had inherited the characteristics of Gu Qian, that the vegetation in that place was too dense. The stone platform emerged from the water surface, but the shaking did not stop. The stone bricks at the 6 corners of the hexagonal stone platform opened, and 6 metal columns emerged from below, bit by bit. The 6 metal columns stopped and suddenly opened. 6 bright beams of light suddenly pierced through the darkness, reaching the top of the pyramid. Only then did Charlotte realize that the stone bricks used to build the pyramid were all black minerals. If this was a rare metal mine, then this was really a rare metal mine with a considerable amount of reserves. Could it be that the Americans and Zhu Xianyue had made a deal? If that's the case, then it's going to be troublesome, Charlotte thought to himself. If it was Zhu Xianyue who had made a deal with the Americans, then this deal could not be broken. Not only could he not break it, but he had to leave immediately. There was a high chance that he would have to face Zhu Xianyue's wrath. After confirming that the woman lying on the stone platform was Zhu Xianyue, Charlotte stepped back. He was very curious about what Zhu Xianyue was doing here, but between curiosity and his life, he chose the latter without hesitation. There was still more than a year left before the black-robed man's only deadline. It was not that he had to die. Although the chances were slim, he still had a chance to turn the situation around. However, the prerequisite for that was that he had to stay alive. However, just as Charlotte stepped back and was about to leave, a man's voice broke the silence in the underground pyramid. "Since you're already here, are you going to leave without making things clear?" It was Kirsten's voice. "I've always thought that you're a very courageous man, but you know what? What you did just now disappointed me." Charlotte stopped and returned to the edge of the tunnel's exit. He leaned his upper body out and looked down. He saw Kirsten standing on the edge of the pool with his 2 inseparable followers, Charlotte and Eva. Kirsten looked up at Charlotte, who was standing above. His face had a confident and good-looking smile. "Charlotte, don't you think it's strange? Don't you want to figure it out? You know?" Charlotte asked tentatively. Kirsten nodded. "What's wrong with her?" "She's fine," Kirsten said. "What does she want?" Kirsten smiled. "Why don't you ask her yourself later? I think you and her must have a lot to talk about, especially about you piloting a B-2 bomber to blow up the AE Research Center. Don't you think you owe her an explanation?" Charlotte's gaze moved to the hexagonal stone platform. Zhu Xianyue still had her eyes closed and had not woken up. Under the illumination of the 6 snow-white pillars of light, her body was completely exposed, not a single hair hidden. At this time, his gaze suddenly moved to the metal container that had fallen on the stone platform. He was stunned for a moment. Wasn't that the alloy container that Zhu Xianyue used to store the energy liquid after she dissolved the 6 faceless warrior statues in the AE Research Center? The B-2 bomber had bombed the AE Research Center indiscriminately. The place had been destroyed over and over again, but the important people and things were not destroyed. It was meaningless to think about what had happened at that time. "Charlotte, do you know?" There was a hint of mockery in Kirsten's tone. "It wasn't easy to lure you here. I've prepared a large number of Delta Special Forces, Navy SEALs, and armed men from Boca Sacred Land for you and your men to kill. I didn't kill the Hua workers because I wanted them to tell you where they found the rare metal. In order to see you, I purposely removed the guards from the mine. Tell me, why do you think I'm so good to you? It was all a trap from the beginning. Charlotte suddenly grabbed the gun, lowered the muzzle, and pulled the trigger at Kirsten. Chapter 1188. Shio 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 shio. The silenced gunshots were almost inaudible, and the 4 bullets flew toward Kirsten in a triangular formation. One of the bullets blocked off Kirsten's path to the pool, the other 2 blocked off Kirsten's paths to the left and right, and the last one headed straight for his head. The only place Kirsten could dodge was the black rock wall behind him, but he obviously could not use magic to burrow into the rock. This was Charlotte's marksmanship, taking Kirsten's life in the blink of an eye. However, Kirsten did not make any moves to dodge. The 4 bullets did not fly to his side, nor did they hit his head. Instead, they flew toward the hexagonal stone platform in the middle of the pool the moment they left the muzzle. The 6 snow-white pillars of light trembled, and the void in the middle of the stone platform seemed to be torn open. The 4 bullets flew toward it like moths to a flame and then disappeared. Charlotte was stunned on the spot. The prehistoric one had said that Zhu Xianyue wanted to use the energy extracted from the 6 faceless warrior statues to open some kind of passage and summon her kind to this world. She was an undefeatable predator, and if more of her kind came, this world would be doomed. Now, Zhu Xianyue seemed to be carrying out some kind of strange plan. If it was really like what the prehistoric one had said, what should he do? Charlotte really wanted to stop Zhu Xianyue, but the cruel reality was right in front of him. He was not a match for Zhu Xianyue at all. This made him feel very pained. If Zhu Xianyue started the end of this world, he could only watch from the side, unable to do anything. Shooting at the slightest disagreement? Charlotte, do you really want to kill me that badly? Kirsten said, a mocking smile on his face. Charlotte put down the Gale assault rifle in his hand. The gun was useless here. Kirsten sneered. If you really want to kill me, then come down. Only by coming down will you have a chance to kill me. Charlotte turned around and left. Since he couldn't stop Zhu Xianyue, there was nothing he could do. If he stayed, his life would be in danger. If he didn't leave now, then when? Do you think you can leave? Kirsten took out a remote control from his pocket and pressed it lightly. Rumble. Suddenly, there was a violent explosion coming from the tunnel behind him. The scorching blast wave of the explosion was like an avalanche. Charlotte had nowhere to escape. In a moment of desperation, he dashed forward and jumped down. As soon as his body left the exit of the tunnel, a cylindrical flame flew over his head. At that moment, he felt as if his entire body was about to be roasted, and the pain was unbearable. Although he had avoided the deadly blast wave, more than half of his hair had been burnt. Voila! Charlotte dived into the pool. From a height of 50 meters, his body smashed into the pool like a cannonball. If the water wasn't deep enough, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. Fortunately, that didn't happen. After his body entered the water, he fell rapidly and only slowed down after falling for 10 meters. At this time, the pool hadn't reached the bottom yet. The water in the pool was bone-chilling. It was a cold that could instantly penetrate one's muscles and bones. It gave one the feeling that one had jumped into a pool of liquid ammonia. Charlotte's body quickly went numb. His organs and brain also went on strike due to the slowing down of blood flow. His consciousness started to blur, and all of this happened in a few seconds. If it was a normal person, even if they didn't die from falling from a height of 50 meters, they would die in this cold pool because the water was at least minus 20 degrees Celsius. It was minus 20 degrees Celsius, but it didn't freeze. This water was not an underground spring. With the dozens of kilograms of equipment on him, Charlotte continued to fall. He didn't know how deep the pool was. He wanted to float up, but his limbs were numb. He couldn't control his body to swim. His brain was getting dizzier and dizzier. Am I going to die? If I die a few hundred meters underground, Frosty and the others will never find me. At this critical moment, he wasn't thinking about cracking the secret of the box of the world, nor was he thinking about stopping Zhu Xianyue from bringing disaster to the world. He was thinking about the woman he loved the most and his children. He was afraid. Other than the fear of death, he was also afraid of losing his family and children. His body continued to sink. The pool seemed bottomless. A minute later, his consciousness completely fell into darkness. He couldn't think or feel fear. Ah! Beside the pool, Kirsten laughed out loud. The CIB and the Pentagon spent so much effort, so much manpower, and so much time, but they still couldn't kill Xiaolei. But I did it. It's not complicated, don't you think? A cold smile appeared on Eva's lips. Those guys at the Pentagon said he's the smartest person in the world, but I don't think so at all. You're the smartest person in the world. Unfortunately, that guy didn't know your real identity until he died. Kirsten shrugged in a cool manner. I've long forgotten about that identity. I'm enjoying my current life. Charlotte stared at the calm surface of the water. Should we fish his body out? I really want to kick him in the face or spit on him, but it's impossible, Kirsten said. The water here is 500 meters deep. Unless we can get a submarine in, we won't be able to fish his body out. That's a pity. That guy got off too easy, Charlotte said. Eva walked to the edge of the pool and looked into the water. She wanted to see Charlotte's body sink. Hey! Be careful. Kirsten reached out to grab her and pulled her back. Is the water poisonous? Eva asked curiously. Kirsten didn't explain. He took out a pistol from his belt and buried part of it in the water. A second later, the part of the gun that was buried in the water was frozen. See? If you fall in, no one will jump in to save you, Kirsten said. Besides, even if we can fish you out in time, you'll become a cripple or even die. Eva's face was filled with shock. Charlotte said, It seems like that guy is really dead. If she wakes up, how are you going to explain it to her? There's no need for an explanation. She wanted Charlotte dead. I just did what she wanted to do but was hesitant to do, Kirsten said. In the middle of the pool, on the hexagonal stone platform, Zhu Xuanyue's eyes were still closed. There was no sign of her waking up. The 6 white beams shot straight toward the top of the pyramid. The 6 beams were refracted and converged into one beam at the top of the pyramid. But the strange thing was that it seemed to have penetrated the pyramid, penetrated space-time and the starry sky, and shot towards an unknown and mysterious place. Zhu Xianyue isotabbed from another corn, the goddess of suicide. Was she using this method to contact her kind from another corn? No one knew the answer. Under the water, Charlotte's body suddenly trembled. Then, he opened his eyes. His eyes were pitch black. The darkness was so thick that it would not disperse. There was no white in his eyes at all. In the forest next to the Friendship Mining Company, he once had an idea. After everything was over, he would find a sea or a lake and try to see how long he could hold his breath underwater. He wanted to know if he could survive without oxygen. However, before he could settle everything here, he got the chance, and it was in this strange water. He didn't need to breathe, because the mysterious energy in his body had replaced oxygen. He was still alive because the life energy hidden in his body had woken up in time. This was not an accidental situation. When he was still weak, every time he encountered the threat of death, the mysterious energy hidden in his body would awaken and play all kinds of roles to help him get through the difficult times. Now it was still the same situation. I'm still alive, I'm still alive, Charlotte said to himself. Faces appeared in his mind. Long Bing, Liang Xiao, Fan Fan, Jiang Rui, Tang Yuyan, Shintu Tianin, Xia Long, Xia Jianghe, Xia Fan, Liang Jiyu, his sister Xia Shui, and his father Xia Changhe. These were the people he loved the most, and they seemed to have given him strength. He shook his head and tried to move his limbs. His limbs returned to normal. They were no longer numb. This discovery reignited his desire to live. He swam upstream. He didn't take off the equipment bag on his back. With his strength, the weight of the equipment bag was nothing. Soon, light appeared above his head. He saw the hexagonal platform that Zhu Xianyue was lying on. He also saw Kirsten and his 2 female companions standing by the pool. Charlotte was standing beside Kirsten, and Eva was standing by the pool. Charlotte changed his route. He slowly swam to the edge of the pool, and when he was close to the edge, he slowly floated upward. He floated very slowly, very carefully, and silently. There was not a single ripple on the surface of the water. Kirsten, Charlotte, and Eva were still talking by the pool. The atmosphere of the conversation was very relaxed. Charlotte is dead. Are we still going to continue with the Dragon Slayer project? Charlotte's voice was heard. Of course we are going to continue with the Dragon Slayer project. Killing Charlotte is only a part of the plan. That ancient and backward country wants to replace the Western world? Humph, they don't even have faith. If China becomes the most powerful country in the world, it will be the world's tragedy. Even God won't be happy, Kirsten said. Then, he drew a cross on his chest, looking very pious. Then we really should let their technology return to 50 years ago, Eva said with a smile. This world needs to change, and China is the place that needs to be changed the most. In fact, it shouldn't even exist, Kirsten said. When Lockheed Martin's super fighter jet, the Dragon Slayer, is born, China will tuck its tail between its legs. A mocking smile appeared on Eva's lip. But that's useless. The United States won't be merciful anymore. Those people in the Pentagon are already mad at China. Those warmongers will do anything. Just as she finished speaking, a hand suddenly emerged from the water and grabbed her ankle. Chapter 1189. There was no sound, no warning. The hand suddenly appeared. It felt like something out of a horror movie, where a shriveled hand suddenly appeared from a graveyard and grabbed her ankle. Unlike the movie, the hand that grabbed Eva's ankle was not shriveled, but a pair of strong and powerful hands. Ah! Eva screamed and instinctively tried to break free from the hand. However, before she could make any movement to struggle, the hand suddenly pulled her out of the water. Eva's body fell into the pool uncontrollably. No! Kirsten pounced. Splash! Eva fell into the water. However, the hand that grabbed her ankle did not let go of her. Instead, it dragged her feet into the water. She finally saw who had dragged her into the water. It was Charlotte. What she could not see was a terrifying face. His eyes were as black as ink, without any white in them. There was no expression on his face, and he looked down on everything about her. Eva struggled with all her might, but she could not break free from the hand. The bone-chilling water quickly took away the heat from her body. Her limbs became numb in the blink of an eye, and she could not move. She opened her mouth to breathe, but all that entered her mouth was cold water. There was no air at all. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Eva fell silent. She opened her mouth, but she did not take another sip of water. He did not die. That was Eva's last thought. Bastard! Beside the pool, Kirsten roared like a madman. I will kill you! Kirsten aimed his gun at the pool and pulled the trigger, but his gun exploded. He had forgotten that his gun was frozen in the pool, and the bullet could not be fired. Damn it! Kirsten threw the gun into the pool. Bang! Bang! Charlotte fired. Her gun was not frozen. However, the bullet flew toward the stone platform the moment it left the muzzle and disappeared. She had also forgotten that guns were useless here. Come out! Get out! Kirsten roared angrily. Splash! A head suddenly popped up from the pool. It was Charlotte's head. His face was expressionless, cold and frightening. Charlotte popped out of the water at the edge of the pool, about 10 meters away from Kirsten and Charlot. As soon as he came out of the water, his upper body jumped out of the water. He grabbed the edge of the pool with both hands and pushed himself up. His whole body jumped out of the water and landed on the edge of the pool. With this leap, the clothes on his body turned into pieces of ice and fell to the ground. His equipment bag and the Gale assault rifle on his back also fell to the ground. Almost in a second, he inexplicably turned into a naked primitive man. His body could withstand the extreme cold, but his clothes could not. Under the effect of the external force, his clothes were frozen into ice and shattered on the ground. With a body that could be said to have perfect curves, strong and well-proportioned muscles, and fair and tender skin, Charlotte, who had returned to the ground, had a kind of beauty that could move the hearts of men and women alike. If only he could cover his eye-catching things, it would be perfect. Even though his clothes were shredded and his gun dropped, Charlotte was only holding onto a military knife. The military knife was very sharp and flashed with a cold light. In the energy field of this underground pyramid, the greater the kinetic energy of the object, the greater the effect. Using a knife, there would be no problem. Bastard! Zelida pounced at Charlotte with a military knife in her hand. In the blink of an eye, the two military knives collided with each other, creating a few sparks. Ding ding ding! After the first collision, Charlotte and Charlot exchanged 3 more blows. Kirsten silently appeared beside Charlotte with a Delta Special Forces military knife in his hand, ready to ambush Charlotte. Ding ding ding! Chee! The sound of the doctor's knife tearing flesh could be heard, and Charlot hurriedly retreated. Her towering breasts were cut open, her clothes were torn, and so was her bra. Even the white jade-like fullness inside was cut open. If she was just a little bit more careful, she might have gotten a free breast cancer removal surgery. Kirsten finally got his chance. He suddenly stabbed at Xia Lei's ribs. Xia Lei didn't even look at it as he waved his hand and slashed at it. Ding! Amidst the sparks, the two military knives collided. Charlotte's general knife pushed at Kirsten's chest, and Kirsten's general knife pushed at Charlotte's chest. The forces from different directions collided, and the tip of the knife moved toward Charlotte and then toward Kirsten. The blades rubbed against each other, creating an ear-piercing sound. Xia Lei's heart was filled with shock. He had never thought that Kirsten's strength would be so great that it could actually contend against his strength. This was his first time fighting with Kirsten, and before this, Kirsten gave him the impression of a smart and cunning enemy. He did not expect this guy to be a master of both the pen and the sword. Charlot did not have the time to check the wound on her breast. She took a step forward, and the military knife in her hand drew a bright trail in the air. Like a shooting star in the night sky, she went straight for Charlotte's back. He was attacked from both front and back. At this critical moment, Charlotte's brain suddenly switched to superbrain mode. Kirsten's movements, Charlot's movements, Kirsten's possible movements, Charlot's possible movements, everything that could happen, and everything that could happen appeared in his brain and was simulated. He pushed Kirsten away and was stabbed in the back by Charlot's knife. He retreated to block Charlot's sneak attack and was cut in the neck by Kirsten. He lay down and was stabbed to death by the two of them. He moved sideways and was unable to avoid the two's joint attack, so he would still die. One by one, the simulation results appeared in Xia Lei's mind. His brain also rejected the simulation deductions one by one until the correct result appeared. Charlotte suddenly let go, and his body fell backward. His body was still in the air when he suddenly exerted force with his right leg and kicked at the vital spot between Kirsten's legs, who was pouncing toward him due to inertia. At the same time, he stabbed the military knife in his hand backward. Kirsten had no choice but to raise his knee and use it to block Charlotte's attack. Charlot's sneak attack missed, and he felt a pain in his leg. Xia Lei had stabbed him in the thigh. This was the result of Charlotte's simulation in superbrain mode. It seemed like a very complicated process, but it had happened in less than a second. In that almost negligible amount of time, his brain's calculation speed was comparable to that of a large computer. Based on the images that his eyes saw and the sounds that his ears heard, He analyzed and calculated in all aspects. Then, his body moved according to the superbrain's instructions. In the end, not only had he neutralized Kirsten and Charlot's joint attack, he had also heavily injured Charlot. Charlotte had used the superbrain mode to study unmanned aerial vehicles and fighter jets countless times, but this was the first time he had used it in a battle. Ah! Charlot cried out in pain and staggered backward. Charlotte's back landed on the ground. He supported himself with his hands and twisted his legs in the air. His entire body spun like a tornado rising from the ground. Kirsten had already rushed over. He would not give up on the chance that Charlotte had just gotten up. Charlotte twisted his waist, and his legs that were still in the air opened up like a pair of scissors. Using the kinetic energy of the rotation, his right leg suddenly moved horizontally, and with great force, it swept across Kirsten's right arm that was holding the military knife that was stabbing toward his chest. Bang! With a dull sound, Kirsten's body was sent flying, and the military knife in his hand fell to the ground. After his body flew a few meters away, he crashed into the wall of the Black Pyramid and fell to the ground. During this process, Charlotte had already rushed forward and attacked with the military knife in his hand. He stabbed at Charlot like a storm. Ding ding ding, shick! Charlot blocked a few of the attacks, but because of the injuries on her chest and legs, when Charlotte delivered the fifth stab, she was half a beat too slow, and Charlotte stabbed her in the stomach. Cough! Charlot coughed up a mouthful of blood. Xia Lei did not have any expression on his face, nor did he have the slightest bit of soft-heartedness or pity. He pulled out the military knife that was stabbed into Charlotte's stomach, then stabbed into her lower abdomen, pulled it out again, and stabbed again, again and again. Charlot no longer had any strength to resist. None of Charlotte's stabs had hit her vitals, but her life was slipping away quickly. Charlotte stretched out his hand and pushed gently, and Charlot fell to the ground with her face up. Blood flowed out from her wounds, drenching her clothes and the ground in the blink of an eye. No! Kirsten, who had just crawled up from the ground, roared at Charlotte. Charlotte walked toward him and said calmly, "No what? You don't want her to die? Why didn't you tell me earlier? If you had told me earlier, I would have definitely fulfilled your wish." Kirsten retreated. He no longer had the military knife in his hand, and his gun could not be used normally in the pyramid's energy field. He and Charlot had not been able to kill Charlotte even after joining hands. Now that Charlot was dead, he was left to face Charlotte alone. He had actually lost the courage to fight. Charlotte continued to approach Kirsten. "Who exactly are you? I don't believe that you are the CEO of Lockheed Martin Corporation." "The CEO of Lockheed Martin Corporation? My family owns shares in the 5 largest arms companies in the United States. I can be the CEO of any company if I want to." Kirsten continued to retreat. There was actually such a family in the world? If there was, then it was even more mysterious and powerful than the Skull and Bones Society of Yale University. What family? Let's have a fair duel, the kind of duel between gentlemen. If you beat me, I will tell you everything you want to know. Not only my family, but also the things you want to know, Kirsten said. Charlotte stopped in his tracks. What do you know? Kirsten shrugged. My conditions are very clear. A duel between gentlemen. If you win, I will tell you. Charlotte smiled. You want me to put down the military knife in my hand and fight you? Kirsten nodded his head. Yes. Charlotte said calmly. But I think it will be more satisfying to stab you with a knife. Also, I want to see how much pain you can endure to keep your secret. Kirsten had been calm and relaxed at first, but at this moment, he could no longer relax. Charlotte suddenly pounced at Kirsten. He gathered his strength and suddenly charged forward. He was like a cheetah hiding in the grass, pouncing on its prey that did not notice it. His speed was even faster and more ferocious than a real cheetah. Kirsten wanted to dodge, but he was facing Charlotte. He did not dare to turn around and expose his back to Charlotte's military knife. However, if he retreated, his speed could not compare to Charlotte, who was pouncing at him like a cheetah. In the blink of an eye, the two were entangled. The military knife in Charlotte's hand swung out, slicing and stabbing, each move faster than the one before. Kirsten struggled to hold on. His body swayed left and right, and he did not dare to clash with Charlotte's military knife. A cold glint slashed across Kirsten's shoulder, and a trace of blood splattered from the edge of the knife. The sharp military knife slashed across Kirsten's lower abdomen. Kirsten's expensive suit was torn open, and blood flowed out. If he had not hurriedly sucked in his abdomen, his intestines would have flowed out from his wound. Chapter 1190. Slash after slash, each slash was faster than the last. With the super brain, Kirsten's every move could not escape Charlotte's prediction. His slash would always land at the correct spot and add a new wound to Kirsten's body. There was no place on Kirsten's body that was not red. More than 10 wounds of various sizes were bleeding, and his expensive suit had long since been dyed red. As the number of wounds increased and blood flowed out, his reaction and speed became slower and slower. Another slash stabbed into Kirsten's thigh. Kirsten fell to the ground. Charlotte used his knee to press down on his chest and pulled out the military knife from his thigh. He then pressed it against his right chest and stabbed it into his body bit by bit. Blood flowed out from Kirsten's chest. If Charlotte stabbed a little more, his lung would be pierced. Breathing and bleeding might not be enough to kill him immediately, but he could make him struggle in pain while waiting for death to come. However, in the face of death, there was no fear in Kirsten's eyes. He actually looked very calm. "You can't kill me." Xia Lei's saber stabbed down a little. "Really?" Hee. Kirsten laughed maniacally. "If you kill me, you will ruin her plan. Do you think she will let you go? Think about your woman and child." Charlotte's gaze was very cold. "Are you threatening me?" Kirsten said, "This is not a threat. This is a reminder. There is a reason why she doesn't kill you. There is also a reason why you can't kill me." Charlotte did not ask. His eyes suddenly changed. His black eyes were breathtaking. The mysterious energy field instantly enveloped Kirsten and synchronized his thoughts. Stealing memories from the target's brain and digging out the information he wanted was something Charlotte had never failed since he had obtained this ability. However, he failed this time. He could not synchronize Constantine's thoughts, nor could he control his thoughts or steal any information from his brain. The mysterious energy field seemed to have invaded a corpse's brain. There was nothing there. "You." Charlotte's eyes returned to normal, but his heart was filled with shock. "Who are you?" "You won't know the answer," Kirsten said. "I suggested a fair duel, but you didn't agree." Charlotte said coldly, "Now I will set the rules of the game. If you answer my question, my hand will not move. If you don't, I will pierce your lungs. If you lie to me, I will still puncture your lungs." "Sometimes you are very naive." Kirsten was not afraid at all. "Also, don't forget my warning. You'd better not kill me or you'll regret it." Charlotte's hand that was holding the military knife moved down bit by bit. The sharp knife cut through Quentin's muscles and moved closer to his lungs. Kirsten endured the pain and did not cry out. There was no fear in his eyes, only anger and contempt. Charlotte's hand stopped just as the knife was about to pierce through Quentin's lungs. However, this was not because Quentin's threat had taken effect. It was because he was thinking about a question in his mind. Why can't I steal information from his brain? Who is he? He was suddenly reminded of something. That's right. Zhu Xianwei once told me that she couldn't control my brain. Could this Kirsten be the same kind of person as me? But how is that possible? Since Kirsten was like him, he could not control his brain and steal information from it. That was the most logical explanation. But the problem was, how could there be a person in this world who had taken the AE capsule and achieved super evolution? Cough, cough. Kirsten coughed, and a trickle of blood leaked out from the corner of his lips. However, a condescending smile appeared on his lips. What, are you afraid? You don't dare to kill me? Just as Kirsten finished speaking, the military knife in Charlotte's hand suddenly pierced into his lungs. The sharp blade had completely sunk into his chest, leaving only the handle outside. Kirsten was stunned, and fear appeared in his eyes. I'm really curious about your identity. You might have a family behind you, but it'll solve my problem better than killing you. After saying that, Charlotte pulled out the military knife and stabbed it into Kirsten's heart. He was right. Giving Kirsten time to kill an enemy who had the same super evolution as him was equivalent to creating trouble for himself. He did not have much time left, and before he left this world, he would not leave an enemy like Kirsten for his wife and children. I don't dare to kill you? I'm going to kill you. No. Kirsten broke down. Fear crashed into his body and soul like an avalanche. He could no longer maintain his calm and control attitude. Whoosh! A beam of light suddenly flew and hit Charlotte's right wrist hard. The huge impact and the intense pain caused the military knife in Xia Lei's hand to fall to the ground. While Charlotte lost his grip, Kirsten suddenly raised his hands and pushed Charlotte's chest, pushing Charlotte off his body. Charlotte did not go after Kirsten. In his eyes, Kirsten was no longer a threat. However, he had a new goal, and it was a threat that he did not want to face the most. Zhu Xianyue. Charlotte shifted his gaze to the center of the pool, and he saw Zhu Xianyue standing on the stone platform. The thing she used to knock his military knife down was the glow stick that he had thrown on the stone platform. It was still glowing quietly. Their eyes met. There were no words, only a straight line of sight. Zhu Xianyue, who was standing on the stone platform, was snow-white like jade. She looked beautiful. Charlotte, who was standing beside the pool, also had fair skin and well-proportioned muscles. He was extraordinarily charming and could be said to be perfect. A few seconds later, Zhu Xianyue suddenly bent her legs on the stone platform. With a kick, her body flew up and charged at Charlotte like a cannonball. Her long hair fluttered behind her. Although her breasts were trembling, they remained firm and did not move back because of the terrifying speed and impact. Charlotte saw that Zhu Xianyue was already in front of him. Zhu Xuanyue's snow-white legs parted at that moment, and one of them stabbed toward his chest like a spear. Charlotte crossed his arms in front of his chest and used the hardest part of his elbows to block Zhu Xuanyue's attack. Boom! With a dull thud, Charlotte's body left the ground and crashed into the pyramid's stone wall like a meteorite. Pfft! Charlotte spat out a mouthful of blood and his body fell heavily to the ground. His body had entered a comprehensive evolution, and his strength was far greater than before. But facing Zhu Xianyue, he was still not her match. Zhu Xianyue looked at Charlotte coldly. There was not a trace of human emotion in her eyes. They were cold and emotionless. Charlotte could not help but feel a trace of sorrow. He had done his best and paid the greatest price he could. But facing an opponent like Zhu Xianyue, he still could not do anything. He could not defeat her. Zhu Xianyue walked toward Charlotte. Her jade-like feet left faint traces of water on the cold stone floor. With each step, the pressure increased. Charlotte struggled to get up from the ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Do you want to kill me? Have you forgotten what happened in the past? He wanted to awaken the tranquility and gu qun in Zhu Xuanyue's body. There was a slight fluctuation in Zhu Xuanyue's eyes, but it only flickered for a moment before disappearing. It was replaced by coldness and emotionlessness. There was also an obvious trace of killing intent. Compared to the previous Zhu Xianyue, she was much more stable now. Charlotte's heart quickly sank. He knew what Zhu Xuanyue's gaze meant. He took a deep breath. If you really want to kill me, I won't blame you. But seeing that I've helped you so much, can you tell me the truth? Zhu Xianyue flashed, and her snow-white body instantly appeared in front of Charlotte. The two plump and firm breasts in front of her chest had already touched Xiaolei's chest. When peas and cherries touched, it brought about a sense of disharmony and an element of instability. Zhu Xianyue clearly didn't do it on purpose. It was just an accident outside of the plan. But it was this accident that made her eyes shine with a strange light. It seemed to be gentleness, but it also seemed to be pain. Tranquility? Qun? Charlotte saw a glimmer of hope. Zhu Xianyue suddenly grabbed Charlotte's neck. Charlotte didn't predict her movements at all. Moreover, her speed was too fast. It was so fast that he didn't have any reaction time to dodge. Don't waste your energy to awaken the two women in my body. Zhu Xuanyue's voice was as cold as a knife. I didn't kill you, but you teamed up with the prehistoric one to deal with me. Do you really think I won't kill you just because you helped me? You will, I believe, Charlotte said. I'm just making a last request. Tell me the truth. You owe me. I've already paid you back what I owe you. Zhu Xianyue looked very fierce. No, you didn't, Charlotte said. Zhu Xianyue suddenly pressed forward and used her body to push Charlotte against the stone wall. Her soft and plump breasts were completely pressed against Charlotte's chest, abdomen, thighs, and it looked like a posture of leaning against the wall. It was sexy and seductive. However, Charlotte knew that he was suffering, because Zhu Xuanyue's body was like a battering ram that was pushing him against the stone wall. Although her body was smooth and delicate, her strength was enough to crush all the bones in his body. Zhu Xianyue was best at killing people by eating them or controlling the target to kill herself in various ways. However, Charlotte was someone she couldn't control or eat. This seemed to be the reason why she chose to kill Charlotte in this way. Xiaolei's body couldn't move at all. His bones were crackling as if they would break at any moment. Kirsten looked at Zhu Xianyue and Charlotte, who were squeezed together, and a happy smile appeared on his face. However, at this moment, Zhu Xianyue suddenly let go of Charlotte, and a strange smile appeared on her face. You ate it? Charlotte was stunned, but he knew that the it that Zhu Xianyue was talking about was the last AE capsule. Zhu Xianyue took a step back and observed Charlotte carefully. Then she smiled again. No wonder you could survive in the water. She seemed to have confirmed this sentence, and there was no need for Charlotte to give her an answer. What does it have to do with you that I ate it? Charlotte asked tentatively after calming down a little. You will know, but not now, Zhu Xianyue said. Go, I won't kill you. Why? Go, before I change my mind. Zhu Xuanyue's eyes turned cold. Charlotte did not ask anything else and turned to leave. When he left, he picked up the Gale assault rifle and the equipment bag that had been defrosted on the ground. Kirsten looked at Xiaolei with a complicated look in his eyes. Chapter 1191. The violent explosion had taken place in the tunnel. The rock structure of this place was extremely strong, so it did not collapse. Kirsten had planned all of this to kill Charlotte, but he could not blow up the tunnel and bury himself hundreds of meters underground. The tunnel was full of rock fragments produced by the high temperature. Charlotte walked barefoot on it. The rock fragments pricked his feet, but he did not seem to feel any pain. Who was Kirsten? What was Zhu Xianyue doing? Why did Zhu Xianyue let him go after he took the last AE capsule? These three questions troubled him and made him restless. If Zhu Xianyue was really summoning her kind on the other corn, and if she succeeded, it would undoubtedly be the beginning of a huge disaster for the world. But even if that was the case, he could not stop her. The current situation was that even if he had another B-2 bomber and loaded it with nuclear bombs, he would not be able to blow up the pyramid hundreds of meters underground, let alone kill Kirsten and Zhu Xianyue. In the face of such a situation, how could he still feel excited about escaping from death? Walking out of Mine 13, Charlotte jumped on the forklift and drove it to Friendship Mining. After entering the back door, he stopped the forklift, pulled out the clothes of a Special Forces soldier, and put them on himself. Then, he walked to the warehouse. Along the way, he wanted to contact the members of the Zodiac Squad and Giovanna, but the satellite phone only rang when he needed it. It had already sunk into the strange cold pool along with his clothes. Without the satellite phone, he could not contact the members of the Zodiac Squad and Giovanna, so he had no way of knowing the situation of the battle. But the one he was most worried about was Shintu Tianyin. She was someone who had even wiped her gun. How could she survive in a combat organization with such a huge disparity in numbers? Just as he began to worry about Shintu Tianyin, a voice came from the communicator found on the body. The people on the mountain are retreating to the railway. Surround them and kill them. Someone responded on the communicator. It was chaos. Charlotte relaxed a little when he heard this conversation. The enemies on the mountain were obviously referring to the members of the Zodiac Squad. They were retreating towards the railway, obviously intending to meet up with Giovanna and the others. The development of the battle might be somewhat disadvantageous, but it was not to the extent of being terrible. Charlotte ran toward the warehouse and appeared in front of the Chinese employees again. He went straight to the point and said, "Boca Sacred Lands Armed Forces and Marika's Special Forces are heading toward the railway. There should be no enemy guards on the road. You guys should run away now. Take all the cars that you can." Wu Qiang asked, "Aren't you leaving with us?" "Yes, I won't leave with you," Charlotte said. "I'm going to support my people." Someone in the hostage group said, "How can we do that? If you leave, who will protect us?" Charlotte's voice was cold. "No one owes you anything, and don't take my kindness for granted. This is all I can do for you. If you want to live, you'll have to rely on yourselves." After saying that, he strode out of the warehouse and suddenly sped up, rushing toward the factory's gate. There were 4 Special Forces soldiers standing guard at the gate, but they all turned into corpses after 2 seconds. Charlotte stepped over their corpses and disappeared into the forest, shrouded in darkness. On the railway, hundreds of Boca Sacred Lands armed forces were charging toward the rescue club's defensive line. The forest itself was not suitable for positional warfare because every tree was a natural cover. The Boca Sacred Lands armed forces hid behind the trees. Even if the veterans of the rescue club had the best weapons, such as the Gale assault rifle and the XL 2500 sniper rifle, their bullets would only hit the tree trunks and be wasted. The remaining dozens of Special Forces soldiers attacked the rescue club's defensive line from the flank. The ones stopping them were the members of the Zodiac Squad who had come down from the mountaintop. 6 people against dozens of well-equipped and battle-hardened Special Forces soldiers. Even the members of the Zodiac Squad were having a hard time. At this rate, the situation would be reversed in half an hour at most, and things would develop in the worst possible direction. The members of the Zodiac Squad would be killed after exhausting their ammunition, and the veterans of the rescue club would also be defeated by the wolf pack tactic. Some would die, some would flee, and those who were captured would be beheaded by the Boca Sacred Land members. Bang, bang, bang! Erdamu poked his head out from behind the tree he was hiding behind and fired a few shots with the Gale assault rifle. However, a few bullets hit the tree trunk he was hiding behind. Wood splinters flew everywhere, and he did not dare to poke his head out. "Why isn't Boss back yet?" Erdamu looked anxious. "He's in the factory. He's facing more enemies than us." Qian Jun poked his head out from behind the rock he was hiding behind and fired a shot. A Special Forces soldier who was rushing toward them was instantly shot in the head. In the bushes, Angumi Khan also pulled the trigger. The XL 2500 sniper rifle fired a bullet. 100 meters away, a Special Forces sniper who was stealthily moving on the hillside was shot to the ground. "Get down!" Yelena suddenly exclaimed. Everyone dropped to the ground. Boom! A grenade exploded in the forest, and shrapnel flew everywhere. F***CK. Sayamu cursed. My butt was hit by shrapnel. Taking advantage of the grenade's suppressive fire, the Special Forces pressed forward at least 10 meters. On the other side. Bang bang bang. Giovanna stood behind a tree next to the railway and fired. She killed 2 armed Boca Sacred Land members who were rushing toward her from the railway, but more people rushed over from the railway and the forest on both sides. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Giovanna could even feel the heat waves from the bullets as they flew past her cheeks. Splat! A veteran from the rescue club behind her was shot in the chest and fell to the ground. On the battlefield, there were already dozens of corpses. They had followed her here to fight, and they had sacrificed their lives here. She did not even know their names. In Africa, the most worthless thing was human life. Kill! Giovanna roared and fired wildly with the Gale assault rifle. However, this time, the charging armed Boca Sacred Land members were all lying on the ground. Her bullets did not hit any targets. Click, click, click. There were no more bullets in the Gale assault rifle. Giovanna's heart sank. She was losing confidence in the battle before her. When is Master coming back? Teresa threw a magazine at Giovanna. She was also in a terrible fix. If we keep fighting, we'll all die here. Where's that woman? Giovanna asked. That guy called Shintu? Teresa smiled and said, he's probably trembling in the back. Don't worry, Rosa and Stella are taking care of her. She'll be fine. Giovanna hesitated for a moment. If there's really no other way, let them take her away first. Master has instructed us to protect her no matter what. Rumble! A rocket suddenly whizzed past her. Rumble! Several veterans from the rescue club were instantly blown away by the rocket. Some had their arms broken, while others had their legs broken. Their deaths were too horrible to look at. Charge over and kill them! Boca Sacred Land's commander roared. Amidst the shouts, a large group of armed Boca Sacred Land members charged over like they were on steroid. As they charged, they opened fire. Bullets rained down on the rescue club's front line. The veterans from the rescue club were suppressed by the firepower and did not dare to raise their head. However, they could not bear to open fire blindly because they did not have much ammunition left. The situation was already very critical. Giovanna could no longer hold it in. She took out her satellite phone and dialed Rosa's number. Amidst the hail of bullets, she said, Rosa, we can't hold on much longer. You and Stella, hurry up and take that woman away. How can we do that? How can we abandon you and escape alone? Rosa's voice rang out. Wait for me, I'll come over to support you immediately. You! Giovanna wanted to stop her, but Rosa had already hung up. This battle was already developing in the worst direction, and it was developing very quickly. However, at this critical moment, a hail of bullets flew over from the direction of the Friendship Mining Company. Each bullet ended the life of a Boca Sacred Land member. Not a single bullet missed its target. Headshots. 20 to 30 people were killed just like that in 2 to 3 seconds. Those who reacted quickly had the chance to take a look behind them. Those who did not react fast enough were sent to hell before they could figure out what was going on. But regardless of whether they reacted fast or slow, no one was able to dodge this sudden sneak attack. The pressure on the rescue union's side was instantly reduced. Giovanna was stunned for 2 seconds before she suddenly said excitedly, It's Master! It's him, it must be him. These guys are dead meat. Stella was also excited. Her hands were trembling when she fired. The one who made the shot was, of course, Charlotte. In this world, only he had the ability to kill 20 to 30 people in 2 to 3 seconds with one magazine. Charlotte's ability to achieve such a level of marksmanship was closely related to his brain. His brain had instantly calculated all the data needed to kill those targets in the super brain mode, such as where and when to raise the muzzle by how many millimeters, how many times to pull the trigger, and so on. These data were as precise as a computer program, and under the control of his brain, his body had also executed all the instructions accurately, which resulted in the outcome just now. Some of the Boca Sacred Land members turned around and looked for the enemy who had fired the sneak attack just now. However, they did not find anyone at all. What happened just now was like a ghost suddenly ambushing them and then leaving without a sound. But just as a few of the Boca Sacred Land members were about to leave, their eyes suddenly lost their focus. Right after that, they suddenly raised the guns in their hands and pulled the trigger at their comrades in front of them. Amidst the gunshots, the Boca Sacred Land members who were engaged in combat fell into a pool of blood. Their strange behavior was soon discovered, and the people in front of them also fired at them. There were more than a dozen corpses on the track. On a tree, Charlotte looked at the corpses on the tracks expressionlessly. Then, he leaped from one tree to another. 10 seconds later, the same thing happened again. This time, more Boca Sacred Land members wanted to shoot at their comrades beside them. In the blink of an eye, the Boca Sacred Land members' front line collapsed. One by one, they fell under the guns of their comrades. Those who wanted to kill were killed, and those who didn't were killed. Some of the Boca Sacred Land members even fired at the U.S. Special Forces who were on the same front line. When had the U.S. Special Forces ever suffered such a loss? Their firepower almost shifted to the Boca Sacred Land members' front line. It was a chaotic battle. At the front line of the Rescue Society veterans, Giovanna was dumbfounded. She looked at the inexplicably chaotic battlefield and was stunned for a long time before she asked, "What happened?" "I think it's probably rabies," Stella said with a shrug. Of course, Giovanna did not believe that it was rabies, but she knew that the battle would be over soon. She said, "It's a miracle." In her heart, Charlotte had become a god that she was willing to sacrifice everything for. Chapter 1192. The gunshots stopped. The forest and the railroad tracks were filled with corpses. In the animal world, lions wouldn't eat lions, and tigers wouldn't eat tigers, even in a drought season when their food was scarce. But humans could kill their own kind, and it had nothing to do with food. That was why humans were the most brutal species on this planet. Giovanna counted the number of veterans from the Rescue Society. She had brought 100 people, but after the battle ended, there were only 32 people left. Everyone from the Zodiac Squad was injured, but there were no casualties. In fact, this was already an amazing achievement. The members of the Zodiac Squad met up with Giovanna and the others. Shintutianin was also brought over by Rosa and Teresa. But the only important person they didn't see was Charlotte. "Where's Boss?" Angumi-kan said. "He must have done it just now, but why didn't he show up? What happened just now?" Yelena was still in shock and confusion. No one answered the couple's question. Angumi-kan and Yelena asked what the others wanted to know. "I can't get through to him." Chien-jun put down the satellite phone, his face full of disappointment. "Why didn't he come out to see us?" Rosa asked anxiously. Shintutianin suddenly ran in the direction of the Friendship Mining Company's factory. As he ran, he shouted, "Charlotte! Charlotte, where are you?" "Stop her!" Giovanna suddenly shouted. Before the others could catch up to Shintutianin, a black figure jumped out from the forest beside the railroad and hugged Shintutianin's waist. Many people thought that it was Charlotte who showed up, but it wasn't. The one who stopped Shintutianin was Akiko Tsukino. While the others were discussing what had just happened and where Charlotte was, she kept looking for traces of Charlotte in the battlefield. "Let me go. Let me go." Shintutianin struggled. "If you weren't the boss's woman, and he asked me to protect you, I wouldn't care about you. What do you want to do? Seeking death? If you die, how are we going to answer to boss?" "Bastard," Akiko Tsukino said. The word bastard calmed Shintutianin down. She bit her lip and said nothing. In such an environment, in the eyes of these cold-blooded super-soldiers, even the Queen of England would not be able to put on the airs of a queen, let alone her. Moreover, it was completely useless. Akiko Tsukino carried Shintutianin back and put her down. "Akiko, have you found any traces of Boss?" Sayamu asked. Akiko Tsukino took out an incomplete map and held it up. On the back of the map was written in Chinese, "Leave Nigeria, go to Chad. I'll come find you later. If I'm still not back by tomorrow evening, don't wait for me. Take the plane back home. Also, take good care of my woman." Seeing the words, "take good care of my woman," Shinto Tianyin could no longer control her emotions and tears streamed down her face. Akiko Tsukino crumpled the map into a ball, lit it with a lighter, and threw it on the ground. The map turned to ashes in the fire and was blown away by the wind. "What is boss playing at?" Angyumi-kan was confused. Akiko Tsukino smiled bitterly. "How would I know? Let's do what he told us to do. We have to leave here. If the American reinforcements come, it'll be bad." The group began to retreat. Shinto Tianyin looked back every 2 steps. She imagined that the man she loved would suddenly appear in front of her, but he never did. The 4 female knights muttered. "I'm sure it was a miracle," Giovanna said in Italian. "We can't call him master anymore." "Then what should we call him?" Stella looked confused. "Holy Thunder." Giovanna drew a cross in front of her chest. "He is the god of war that God sent to this world. To be able to follow him is the greatest honor of our lives. I am willing to give up my everything for him." "Sis, what is your everything?" Stella asked with a smile. "Blood, soul, and flesh. Everything I have." Giovanna's eyes shone with a devout light. Rosa smiled. "You want to sleep with Holy Thunder, right? I bet you must be very wet." "Giovanna," the wounded group went further and further away. A few hundred meters away, on a tree that was several dozen meters tall, Charlotte quietly watched his people leave. His gaze stopped on Shinto Tianyin's body for a long time before moving away in the end. He said to himself, "Forgive me. It's not that I'm unwilling to meet all of you, and I want to leave with all of you. However, there are some things that I must do." There were always some things in life that we were extremely unwilling to do, but we still had to do them. We thought that we had no other choice. Charlotte had no other choice. Zhu Xianhua didn't kill him because she knew that he had taken the last AE capsule. Why was that? He had to find out. He also had to find out Kirsten's identity. Therefore, even though he knew that it was very dangerous to return to the Friendship Mining Company at this time, he had to go back. Kirsten was so badly injured that he had to receive treatment. To receive treatment, he had to leave Mine 13. This was his only chance to capture or kill Kirsten. If Kirsten returned to the United States, he would not have another chance. Moreover, he had to find out if Kirsten would bring the rare metal bricks from the underground pyramid back to the United States to build the Dragon Slayer superfighter jet. The Friendship Mining Company was silent at night. The cold moonlight and the cold corpses made it look like a morgue in an apocalyptic world. Charlotte appeared in the Friendship Mining Company. He walked toward the back door. His destination was still Mine 13. While walking, his eyes quickly swept across the entire factory area, scanning and scouting the area with his X-ray vision. The hostages in the material warehouse had all escaped. The cars in the parking lot had also been driven away, including some American military vehicles. As his eyes scanned the office building, Charlotte suddenly stopped and turned around to walk toward the office building. In an office on the first floor of the office building, a middle-aged man was talking on the phone. Charlotte recognized him at first glance. The man was none other than Shinto Tianyin's 7th uncle, Shinto Weiying. "What the hell? You promised to protect me. If I hadn't left Mine 13 at the last minute, I would be dead now. I don't care. The workers have all escaped. I can't cover this up anymore. If you don't send a plane to pick me up, I'll expose our deal." Shinto Weiying was very nervous and scared. "What's the situation in Mine 13 now?" A man's voice came from the phone. 10 meters away, Xia Lei's ears caught the sound from the phone, and he immediately stopped. It was Yen Fo's voice. He didn't expect that the person who made the deal with Shinto Weiying would be Yen Fo. The FA organization was now working for the United States, and Yen FO was also under the command of Williams. So, it was the CIA who made the deal with Shintu Weiying. I don't know. I don't dare to go in. But I know the situation outside. People are dead. Shintu Weiying's voice was trembling. Go into mine number 13 and have a look. We're already here. You'll get what you want. Don't worry about that. As long as you go into mine number 13 and have a look, you'll be able to tell me what's going on inside, Yen Fo said. Okay, I'll go and have a look now. Call me after you've seen it. Wait for my call. Shintu Weiying put down the phone and turned to go out. As soon as he walked out of the door, he stopped. He saw Charlotte standing a few meters away. Charlotte walked towards Shintu Weiying. Hey, you came at the right time. Go to mine 13 and have a look, and then tell me the situation inside, Shintu Weiying said. He regarded Charlotte as a survivor of the U.S. Special Forces. Charlotte didn't speak. He continued to walk towards Shintu Weiying. Shintu Weiying frowned. Don't you understand English? Then how did you get this job? Well, as long as you do as I say, I will give you $500. 1,000? Charlotte walked up to Shintu Weiying and suddenly reached out and grabbed Shintu Weiying's neck. You! Shintu Weiying's face suddenly turned pale. Do you people of the Shintu family have the gene for betrayal? Charlotte said in Chinese. You are. Shintu Weiying's voice was trembling. Who are you? Charlotte said lightly, the person who wants your life. Let go of me. Shintu Weiying punched Charlotte's cheek. Charlotte suddenly tightened his grip on Shintu Weiying's neck. Shintu Weiying's breathing suddenly stopped. He didn't care about Charlotte's face anymore. He hurriedly reached out to pry off Charlotte's hand. But to him, the hand that was strangling his neck wasn't a hand, but a big pincer. Shintu Weiying's legs kept kicking Charlotte, but his struggle was getting weaker and weaker. His crotch was wet with urine, and it dripped down his trousers to the ground. Charlotte frowned and let go of his hand. Shintu Weiying fell to the ground and didn't move again. Charlotte dragged his body into the office and stuffed it under the desk. He sat in the office chair and imitated Shintu Weiying's voice, repeating what Shintu Weiying had just said. Don't you understand English? Then how did you get this job? Well, as long as you do as I say, I will give you $500. 1,000? 10 minutes later, he picked up the phone on the desk and dialed back the number that Shintu Weiying had called before. He said, No, not good. Why are you panicking? Calm down. Yen Fo's voice was full of anger. Charlotte was still very nervous. I have to get out of here. They're coming. At least 2,000 people. What did you say? 2,000 people? How is that possible? They're coming. No, I have to leave, Charlotte said anxiously. By the way, they also have anti-aircraft missile vehicles. It seems it's the Russians. It was Yen Fo's voice. Charlotte put down the phone and hung up. Of course, there were no Russian soldiers or anti-aircraft missiles here. His purpose of pretending to be Shintu Weiying was very clear. That was, his target tonight was Kirsten, not anyone from the FA organization. He would definitely destroy the FA organization, but not now. He made this call and let Russia take the blame for the time being. The CIA would definitely launch an investigation, and by the time they finished the investigation and let Yen Fo come with reinforcements, he would probably be finished. Charlotte left the office and climbed to the roof of the office building. His eyes moved to the direction of mine number 13, then he took off the equipment bag and assembled an XL 2500 sniper rifle in the equipment bag. Then he waited. 5 minutes later, a figure came into his sight. Chapter 1193. Kirsten finally appeared. He walked very slowly and staggered. There were more than 10 wounds on his body, and his right chest had been pierced. It was a miracle that he could walk out on his own. Charlotte locked his gaze on Kirsten. In his eyes, any part of Kirsten's body was a target that he could attack. As long as he pulled the trigger, Kirsten would fall. Should he kill him or rush over to capture him? Between these two options, Charlotte hesitated for a moment. In the end, he chose the latter. If he captured Kirsten, he might not be able to get the information he wanted from Kirsten. On the other hand, if Kirsten was alive, he would be a huge threat, not only to his wife and children, but also to the whole of China. After all, Kirsten still had the Dragon Slayer project. After making his choice, Charlotte locked his gaze on Kirsten's chest. The XL 2500 sniper rifle in his hand followed his line of sight and finally locked onto Kirsten's heart. However, just as Charlotte was about to shoot, Kirsten suddenly retreated into Mine 13. Xia Lei furrowed his brows. Did that guy discover me? I'm more than 2,000 meters away from him, and I'm lying on the rooftop. If he can discover me, it means that he really has taken the AE capsule and has the same super evolution as me. Kirsten had taken the AE capsule, and this was proven in the underground pyramid. Kirsten was second only to him in terms of reflexes and strength. Moreover, his energy field could not dig out any information from Kirsten's brain. Also, Kirsten's ability to research the Dragon Slayer super fighter jet was proof. If that was the case, there was even more reason to not let Kirsten live. Charlotte got up from the rooftop and prepared to go down to Mine 13 to kill Kirsten. At this moment, he suddenly heard a soft voice behind him. He suddenly turned around, and a breathtakingly beautiful face entered his field of vision. It was Zhu Xianyue. Charlotte had no idea when she had arrived. Two pairs of eyes met. One was clothed, and the other was naked. One's gaze was cold, and the other seemed very nervous. A few seconds later, Zhu Xianyue broke the silence between the two. When you left, I knew what you wanted to do. Do you really want to kill my follower? Charlotte said, I just want to figure out what happened. Give me the answer, and I'll leave now. Zhu Xuanyue's eyes grew colder. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? Charlotte said, Yes, you've made it very clear that you don't owe me anything. If you want to kill me, you can do it. I don't dare. Killing me won't do you any good. You let me go not because you are benevolent, but because I still have some value to you, right? That was why he gave me 3 years and forced me to eat the last AE capsule. What are the two of you plotting? Zhu Xianyue frowned. She did not answer Charlotte's question. What do you want from me? Charlotte asked. Zhu Xianyue shook her head. One day you'll understand everything, but not now. Then tell me, who is Kirsten? He also took the AE capsule, right? Charlotte changed the question. Zhu Xianyue said, Leave. I won't answer any of your questions. Charlotte did not move. He was not willing to give up. Zhu Xianyue said, You'd better leave now. Kirsten has already contacted the CIA, and they're sending people over. You have about 20 minutes to leave. After that, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave here alive. There was a hint of a threat in her words. Xia Lei, however, was unmoved. He smiled in an abnormal manner. Be it you or the prehistoric only, it would be easy for either of you to kill me. Yet, you chose to let me live. Even if I were to become your enemy, you would still let me live. I'm more and more certain what you want from me. Then what do you think it is? I don't know yet, but I'll definitely get to the bottom of it. It's fine if you don't tell me, but I'll cooperate with the prehistoric one and give him what you want, Charlotte said. In the distance, Kirsten walked out of Mine 13 again. He did not walk over. Instead, he chose an empty space to lie down. He was waiting for the CIA to rescue him. Charlotte had already given up on the idea of killing Kirsten. With Zhu Xianyue by his side, he could not do it. He put away the XL 2500 sniper rifle and walked toward the stairs. Are you really going to choose him? Zhu Xuanyue's voice was heard. Charlotte looked back at Zhu Xianyue. You were the one who pushed me to him. I almost died in the underground pyramid. Kirsten said that you wanted to kill me, and he designed a trap to kill me. You and your followers did this to me, and I'm indebted to you. Can I still cooperate with you? He continued to walk toward the stairs. He is. Zhu Xianyue hesitated for a moment before saying, Leonardo di Piero da Vinci. Xia Lei was instantly stunned on the spot, and his feet also stopped. Kirsten was actually da Vinci, the most intelligent man in the history of mankind. History might say that Charlotte was the smartest person in the world, but before Charlotte appeared, the person with the highest IQ was da Vinci. It was no wonder that he could develop the super fighter jet Dragon Slayer for the United States. But how could a man from the Renaissance era live until now? In history, da Vinci was already white-haired when he died, but Kirsten was a handsome young man with blonde hair. Judging from his appearance, he was definitely no more than 30 years old. Da Vinci was born on April 23, 1452, and died on May 2, 1519, at the age of 67. This was all recorded in history, and no one had ever questioned it. If this was fake, then based on 1452, da Vinci would be more than 560 years old now. How could a person live for so long? Moreover, what Charlotte did not understand the most was that since da Vinci was Zhu Xuanyue's follower, why did he not resurrect her himself? In fact, if it were not for his help, even if Zhu Xianyue could be resurrected, it would not be in this era. Maybe it would be 100 years later, or maybe a few hundred years later. Just as Charlotte was feeling surprised and suspicious, Zhu Xianyue said calmly, I know what you are thinking. I can tell you the truth, but you have to promise me that you will not cooperate with Prehistoric One. Charlotte nodded and turned to look at Zhu Xianyue. A smile appeared on his lips. Of course, I am more willing to cooperate with you. After all, you have two women that I love deeply in your body. He was cooperating with Prehistoric One, and now he was cooperating with Zhu Xianyue. But no matter what kind of cooperation it was, he was not willing to do it. This was just a strategy. He, Zhu Xianyue, and Prehistoric One were like Wei, Shu, and Wu in the Three Kingdoms period. He was the weakest Shu kingdom, and if he wanted to obtain strategic space to survive and develop, he could not be enemies with Prehistoric One and Zhu Xianyue at the same time. He would cooperate with whoever gave him benefit. After all, these were just verbal promises, and he did not need to spend a single cent. Charlotte's smile, and the women that he loved deeply, seemed to have touched the other two women in Zhu Xuanyue's body. At that moment, her eyes became gentle. But in just a second she recovered, and her eyes were still cold. I am warning you, don't try to wake them up again. Xia Lei shrugged his shoulders. I didn't do anything. That's your own fault. Tell me, what is the truth? Do you think he took the AE capsule? You are wrong. The only AE capsule in this world is in that piece of amber, but now they are in your body. If it is not the AE capsule, then Da Vinci. That is a biochemical technology from our world. He is not the Da Vinci who lived from the Renaissance until now. I used his genetic data and the biological tissue he preserved to replicate a biohuman. I used the energy of my prey in the process of replicating him. I want to make him smarter and stronger. I need a helper like him to complete my plan. This was the truth. During the Renaissance, Da Vinci met Zhu Xianyue and fell in love with the demon. He was the smartest person in the world, and Zhu Xianyue took him in for her own use. Now, Zhu Xianyue replicated him and continued with her plan. Kirsten's current appearance was Da Vinci's when he was young. He had a high IQ, and with the energy that Zhu Xianyue obtained from hunting humans, the replicated Da Vinci would be even more powerful than the Da Vinci of the Renaissance. Zhu Xianyue created her own body in India, so of course she had the ability to replicate Da Vinci. You have mentioned your plan again and again. What is your plan? Do you really want to destroy this world? Suppressing the shock in his heart, Charlotte probed. It's time for you to go, Zhu Xianyue said. One last question, Charlotte said. Tell me, why are you working for America? Working for America? Zhu Xianyue suddenly laughed. Do you think that with my identity I will work for America? And then take a salary from the American government? She pointed in Da Vinci's direction. The Leo family, founded by his descendants, is the wealthiest family in the world. His family affects America economically and politically, and they can even influence the decisions of the decision-makers. Tell me, am I working for America, or is America working for me? Charlotte's back turned cold. America, the most powerful empire in the world. If a demon controlled the most powerful empire in the world through special means, it would not be a good thing. It would be a huge disaster. I have told you the truth. You can go. Zhu Xianyue said indifferently, remember to fulfill the agreement between you and me. If you choose him, I will destroy everything you have. Your Rema group, your wife and children, and even your motherland. Her tone was indifferent and understated, but it was the most serious threat Charlotte had ever faced. You are very good. You will get what you want, Charlotte said and turned to leave. Just as he walked out of the Friendship mining area, more than a dozen helicopters appeared in the sky. There were Apache helicopters and Chinook transport planes. From a long distance, Charlotte could also see the CIB agents and elite special forces sitting in the Chinook transport plane, as well as the people from the FA organization, Yen Fo and Augustman, and the elite armed men from the FA organization. However, Charlotte was not worried about these people. If Zhu Xianyue let him go, then those UA special forces and the CIB would not chase after him. As for the people from the FA organization, they did not have the guts to challenge Zhu Xianyue at all. The trip to Nigeria was over. Walking on the tracks, Charlotte did not know why, but he felt more tired than ever. Chapter 1194. The team left the railway and marched in the direction of the highway. This decision was made by Giovanna and Qian Jun after a discussion. They were worried about being chased by the pursuers. Another reason was that no one wanted to experience a 200-kilometer rapid march after a bitter battle. After making this decision, Giovanna used a satellite phone to contact the members of the Rescue Association in Kano City in Nigeria and ask them to pick them up. After a period of trekking, the team came to the highway. The highway was secluded and empty. The veterans of the Rescue Association dragged their tired bodies along the highway. The members of the Zodiac team were not much better. Although the injuries on their bodies were not fatal, they were enough to affect their speed. Was the battle won? If so, it was also a Pyrrhic victory. If it weren't for Charlotte's timely action, no one here would have survived. Shintu Tianin walked with a limp. The physical exhaustion and the blood blisters on the soles of her feet made her very painful. However, there was no one carrying her like Charlotte. She walked at the back of the team and looked back at Friendship mining from time to time. She was worried about Charlotte. She wanted to share his burden, but there was nothing she could do. This experience made her understand that sometimes money couldn't solve problems, even if she had 100 billion. What do you think the boss is going to do? Also, will he arrive in Chad on time to meet us? Ngumi broke the depressing silence in an instant. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm sure he'll meet us in Chad, Yelena said. Sayamu sighed. I must take a good vacation when I go back. Auricio said, let's go to Italy. Italian girls are passionate. Several members of the Zodiac team chatted, using this way to relax their tense nerves and mood. On the Rescue Association's side, Giovanna said to the veterans of the Rescue Association, we lost a lot of brothers, but we shouldn't be sad. They just went to heaven. We will give their parents, wives, and children a generous pension of $500,000 each. There's also a bounty for the living, $200,000 per person. The veterans of the rescue club suddenly became excited. Each of their lost brothers could get $500,000, which was enough for their parents, wives, and children to live the rest of their lives in comfort. Each survivor would receive $200,000. For a country like Nigeria, where the average income was only $2,000, they would have to work for 100 years to earn that much money. Regardless of whether it was the dead or the living, their efforts had been rewarded. This was actually Giovanna's plan. They wanted the people of the Rescue Society to know that they would fight for the Rescue Society in the future, regardless of whether they were alive or dead. They would have no worries. This way, more people would be willing to fight for the Rescue Society in the future. After calming down the emotions of the veterans, Giovanna returned to Rosa, Stella, and Teresa's side. She looked back at Shintu, who was walking at the back of the group. Seeing her limping, she felt a little sorry for her. She walked over to Shintu. "Do you need help?" Shintu shook her head. "No need, thank you. We might still have a long way to go. Can you do it? If you can't, I can let one of the veterans carry you," Giovanna said. "No, I can walk. I don't need anyone to carry me." Shintu refused. In this world, the only man who could touch her body was Charlotte. Giovanna shrugged. "Up to you then." Shintu limped forward, cold, arrogant, and stubborn. But this was her charm. At this moment, Rosa suddenly said, "There's a car coming. Hide." Everyone retreated from the road and hid in the forest by the side of the road. At one end of the road, 7 or 8 cars drove over quickly. As they drove, the car at the front flashed its lights a few times. "It's our people. Our car is here," Giovanna said loudly. Everyone returned to the road. The cars that came to pick them up also drove over. After turning around, they stopped by the side of the road. "Miss Shintu, get in the car," Giovanna said. Shintu nodded. But when she walked to the side of the car, she couldn't help but look back. She had been waiting for a scene. That was Charlotte suddenly appearing in front of her with her favorite smile on his face. But the road behind her was empty. There was no one at all. Shintu sighed in disappointment. But just as she was about to turn around and get in the car, a familiar figure suddenly walked out from the forest by the side of the road. She was stunned for a moment. When she saw who it was, she suddenly cheered and ran towards that person. Charlotte was back. Shintu limped over to Charlotte and threw herself into his arms. Her tears flowed down. She was choking and couldn't say anything. "Why did you run so fast when your feet hurt?" Charlotte said with a smile. Shintu softness dispelled the coldness in his heart and made him temporarily forget those terrible things. "Even if I don't have legs, I'll crawl over," Shintu said. After experiencing this journey of blood and fire, she had changed, and she understood what she wanted. "Can I carry you over?" Charlotte's voice was very gentle. Shintu bit her cherry lips. If it was in the past, she would never show her helpless side in front of so many people. But now, she was willing because he was Charlotte. Charlotte carried Shintu by the waist and strode towards the car. Everyone's eyes were focused on Shintu and Charlotte, but Shintu didn't care at all. Charlotte's hands were on her legs and her waist. She felt that it was the warmest and safest arm in the world. She wanted to lie in it for the rest of her life. "Boss, didn't you tell us to go first and meet up with us in Chad?" Yelena asked. Charlotte said, "The matter has been settled. Let's go." "Get in the car. Get in the car," Giovanna said loudly. "Let's get out of here." Charlotte said, "No need to drive so fast. No one will chase us." No one knew what had happened, but Charlotte's return made everyone feel at ease. The retreating motorcade sped on the road through the forest of no return, getting farther and farther away. In the deep blue night sky, a round moon quietly emitted a cold light. Countless stars dotted it, distant and mysterious. It was as if there was an ancient and mysterious language telling something, but unfortunately, no one could decipher it. In a car, Charlotte looked back in the direction of Friendship Mining, then said to Shinto Tianyin beside him, Tianyin, your seventh uncle is dead. Did the Americans do it? Shinto Tianyin asked. Charlotte said, I don't know if it was the Americans or Boca Sacred Land. Your seventh uncle seems to have made a deal with those people and sold you and Friendship Mining, but I don't know why they killed him. Dead is dead, Shinto Tianyin said. Also, when you go back, immediately file a complaint with the Nigerian government and let the Nigerian government come forward to protect the property of the Wanxiang group. Will that work? No. Then I don't want it, Shinto Tianyin said. Charlotte said, if you can get it back, then get it back. If you can't, then don't. Shinto Tianyin leaned his head on Charlotte's shoulder. I only want you. Charlotte smiled. Giovanna, who was driving, coughed. Holy thunder, are we going directly to Chad, or are we going to the Salvation Society's stronghold to fix up? Let's go to the Salvation Society's stronghold to fix up. Charlotte said, the CIA's people are coming, a lot of them. Get someone to collect information, it'll be safer this way. Okay, Giovanna said. She glanced at Shinto Tianyin, who was leaning on Charlotte's shoulder, through the rearview mirror. When she saw Shinto Tianyin's happy face, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Coincidentally, her sister, Stella, was also peeking at Charlotte and Shinto Tianyin through the rearview mirror. When she saw Shinto Tianyin nestling in Charlotte's arms, the corners of her mouth also curled up slightly. Holy thunder? Charlotte smiled bitterly. Why do you call me that? Giovanna and Stella said in unison, no reason. We'll call you Holy Thunder from now on. Charlotte, the convoy left the forest and entered Kano City. Then, they arrived at the old building. Giovanna and the other three began to deal with the pension and bonus issues, while the members of the Zodiac squad treated their wounds and rested in the house. Charlotte and Shinto Tianyin were arranged to stay in a separate room. When they entered the room, an oil painting hanging on the wall caught Charlotte's attention. The content of the painting was a forest shrouded in darkness. But in the forest, there was a snow-white beam of light that shot into the dark sky. In the white light, one could vaguely see the appearance of a person with wings. On the lower right corner of the oil painting was a label in English, Forest of No Return, Home of Elves. Elves? Elves obviously didn't exist in this world, but there was a strange and mysterious pyramid in that forest. Perhaps the ancient Kano people had seen the snow-white beam of light and the appearance of elf-like creatures, so they gave the forest the name Forest of No Return. Charlotte suddenly thought of something. Tianyin, there was a time when I entered the mine. Did you see a light outside? Light? Shinto Tianyin looked a little confused. Charlotte said, yes, light. Did you see it? Shinto Tianyin thought about it seriously. Yes, it seemed to be in the direction of the mine. I saw a white light flying into the sky. I thought it was a searchlight, so I didn't pay attention. How long did it last? A second or two. It disappeared very quickly, Shinto Tianyin said. Charlotte's gaze moved to the oil painting again. It wasn't very old, probably only a few decades old. The person who painted the painting didn't sign his name, but in terms of style, it was actually a very ordinary oil painting with a limited level of skill. But it was this oil painting that its content was confirmed tonight. There had always been a saying that the pyramids were built by aliens. The pyramids in Mine 13 and the mountainside on the outskirts of Jerusalem, Israel, were not built by humans at all. Now it seemed that they were really used to send signals and contact extraterrestrial facilities. So, were Zhu Xuanyue's kind coming? Was the world's disaster or even the end of the world coming? Charlotte's heart was heavy. What happened? Shinto Tianyin asked with concern. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Nothing. He looked at her and his voice became gentle. When you go back, do whatever you want to do. Don't just think about your career. Shinto Tianyin smiled. You said that I can do whatever I want? Charlotte nodded. Yes, you can do whatever you want. Then take a shower with me. Shintu Tianyin took Charlotte's hand and walked to the bathroom. I still have a little antidote left. You won't stop me from using it, right? Charlotte was speechless. Chapter 1195. The warm water, the many bubbles, the man and the woman intertwined together. Bathing was actually a false proposition. When the passion subsided, two drenched figures burrowed into the blanket. Under the thin blanket, one could faintly see Shintu Tianyin's undulating and graceful body curves, as well as Xia Lei's. He had a sexiness that could make a woman's ears turn red. Shintu Tianyin's head was resting on Charlotte's arm, but her eyes were on a glass bottle next to the bed. There was only a little bit of antidote left inside the glass bottle, and it could probably be used one more time. Charlotte, on the other hand, was still staring at the oil painting, trying to guess the secret of the forest of no return and Zhu Xuanyue's plan. However, he knew too little. Even with a brain that could rival a supercomputer, he could not come up with a reliable conclusion. However, it was easy to imagine the worst-case scenario, and that was the invasion of Zhu Xuanyue's own kind, and the humans at the top of the food chain would be reduced to food. A pure energy species would enter this world, and they would be able to control the human brain at will. They would be able to hunt for food in the world and become stronger. That day, it would be the end of the world. If Zhu Xuanyue's plan is really to destroy this world, then why didn't the prehistoric only one stop him? After all, he belongs to this world, and he is Zhu Xuanyue's mortal enemy, so why didn't he come to stop Zhu Xuanyue? Charlotte could not understand this question. If the prehistoric only one appeared and attacked Zhu Xuanyue, then he and the prehistoric only one would have a chance to stop Zhu Xuanyue. However, the prehistoric only one did not appear. Hubby, the medicine that Yu Yan gave me is about to run out, do you think? Shintu Tianyin's voice broke the silence on the bed. She looked rather shy. Do you think I'm pregnant? Charlotte collected his thoughts. He reached one hand into the blanket and placed it lightly on Shintu Tianyin's stomach. Her abdomen was smooth and flat, warm and delicate. Go on, baby's skin. He gently stroked it and said with a smile, I feel a little guy kicking your stomach. Yes, you must be pregnant. Ha ha. Shintu Tianyin laughed like a child. Do you think I'm a 12-year-old girl? Even if you're pregnant, you won't be able to feel it. How long has it been? Fan Fan can detect it. She is the best bioengineer in the country, Charlotte said, but he suddenly realized that he had said something wrong. He and Shintu Tianyin were secretly dating in order to satisfy her wish to have a child. Under such circumstances, how could Shintu Tianyin ask Fan Fan for help? Sure enough, the smile on Shintu Tianyin's face disappeared, and a hint of sadness flashed across his eyes. Will you come to me after returning to China? Charlotte didn't know how to answer this question for a moment. Shintu Tianyin's expression darkened. What about when I give birth? Charlotte held her in his arms. Of course I'll come to see you. When you give birth, of course I'll be by your side. If that was what she wanted, he could give it to her. It wasn't a big deal to have a rendezvous for half a month until the day of his death came. If Shintu Tianyin was really pregnant with his child and gave birth to his child, he should also fulfill his role as a husband and father, although Shintu Tianyin didn't ask for any status now. Only then did Shintu Tianyin become happy again. She used her cheek to gently rub against Xia Lei's cheek. Meeting you was the luckiest thing that happened in my life. I lost you once, and that was my stupidity. I won't lose you again. Charlotte kissed her forehead, but he sighed in his heart. His time was running out. He was destined to leave her. When that time came, she would be hurt more than when he divorced her. And he was powerless to change it. Tianyin, if I leave this world one day, you have to take good care of the child and raise the child, okay? Charlotte said. Shintu Tianyin was stunned for a moment. Then she reached out and pinched Charlotte's waist. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't want to hear you say such things. I want you to watch our son get married and watch our daughter get married. You're not allowed to leave. I won't allow you to leave. Promise me, okay? Charlotte smiled and nodded. I promise you. Shintu Tianyin kissed Charlotte's cheek. That soft hand was a little naughty. Charlotte suddenly untied the thin blanket. Shintu Tianyin let out a squeal and reached out to cover the important part, but she couldn't cover it at all. She said angrily and embarrassedly, "What are you doing?" Charlotte said, "I'm looking at the condition of your stomach. I can see if there's a child inside." "I don't believe you." Shintu Tianyin felt that Charlotte wanted to see her, not the child. "Be good and lie down." "I'll take a look," Charlotte said. Shintu Tianyin put both her hands down. He wanted to see, and she would let him see. His attempt to cover it up just now was just a hypocritical act. Charlotte's gaze fell on Shintu Tianyin's lower abdomen. Her lower abdomen was like congealed fat, and it was too wonderful for words. He felt that he could look at it like this for 3 years without getting tired. Shintu Tianyin twisted her waist. "What do you see? You're a pervert." Charlotte's left and right eyes suddenly entered the extraordinary mode of X-ray and scanning, and instantly entered her lower abdomen. After entering the lower abdomen, he awakened the microvision ability. Under the effect of these 3 abilities, a holographic image of a uterus appeared in his brain. A minute later, he saw 2 fertilized eggs in the holographic image of the uterus. This discovery made Charlotte stunned for a moment, and then he laughed out loud. "Tianyin, you're pregnant. There are 2, but I don't know if it's a boy and a girl or 2 boys and 2 girls." He could see the fertilized eggs, but he couldn't see the gender of the fertilized eggs. After all, they hadn't developed enough to distinguish the gender. Really? Shintu Tianyin was also stunned. Charlotte nodded. "It's true, believe me." Shintu Tianyin let out a cry and suddenly climbed up, hugging Charlotte tightly. Because of her excitement, her voice seemed to be trembling. "I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother of 2 children. Ha ha." Charlotte covered her little mouth. "Shoo, do you want people to hear us and laugh at us?" Shintu Tianyin suppressed the excitement in her heart and nodded. Her voice also became smaller. "Then I'll speak in a lower voice. Honey, I love you, I love you." Xia Lei kissed the tip of her nose. Shintu Tianyin kissed his lip. "The 2 names you gave them can be used. The boy will be called Xia Yang, and the girl will be called Xia Yu." Charlotte said with a smile, "As I said, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Could be 2 boys or 2 girls. Then they will be called Xia Yang and Xia Yu. You're the child's father, so it's up to you to name them," Shintu Tianyin said. Charlotte pressed his cheek against Shintu Tianyin's lower abdomen. Her lower abdomen was soft and warm, like a heated jelly. It also had a faint, enchanting body fragrance, and his gaze inevitably moved downwards, so he felt that his whole body was heating up, and he was ready to make a move. Shintu Tianyin lay on Charlotte's head and caressed his face. Her hair was especially gentle. Charlotte was ignited just like that, and he pressed her under his body. "Be gentle, we're pregnant," Shintu Tianyin said and closed her eyes shyly. Charlotte nodded carefully. This time, Shintu Tianyin threw the antidote to the back of her mind. Happiness was that simple. She had obtained it. Although the process was complicated and it was not easy to obtain, the feeling of all this was so wonderful and precious. Dawn came quietly, and the golden sunlight shone in through the window. The ground was covered with golden light spots, and the bed was snow-white. The scenery outside the window was charming, and the scenery inside the window was alluring. Charlotte got up early in the morning. He wanted to wake up Shintu Tianyin, but seeing that she was sleeping soundly with a peaceful smile on her face, he could not bear to wake her. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Charlotte looked over and saw Akiko Tsukino standing at the door. Charlotte went over to open the door and walked out. When facing Akiko Tsukino, an awkward smile appeared on his face. Akiko, are we leaving? Akiko Tsukino handed her satellite phone to Charlotte. Your call. Charlotte was slightly stunned. Whose call? Akiko Tsukino said, It's Dad's. Call him, he's waiting for you. Charlotte dialed his father's number, and the call was quickly connected. Charlotte. Yes, Dad. Charlotte said, Where are you? I want to see you. He had too many things to ask Xia Changhe. I'm in Israel, Jerusalem. What are you doing in Jerusalem? Don't worry about that. I'll tell you when I come back. When will you come back? Charlotte was a little dissatisfied. Your grandchildren can already speak, but they haven't even seen their grandfather. What are you busy with? You have to believe that everything I do is for you. Charlotte sighed. Well, why did you call me this time? Xia Changhe was silent for a moment before he said, Something big is coming. You have to be prepared. What big thing? Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Dad, what do you know? A huge disaster is about to happen. I think you know what I'm talking about. Xia Changhe said, The Kirsten with that woman isn't a real person. He's very dangerous and will affect your plan. You have to kill him no matter what. What do you know about him? He's a replica of Da Vinci. How did you know? Charlotte was shocked. He had found out from Zhu Xianyue. If Zhu Xianyue had not told him, he would never have believed that Kirsten was a replica of Da Vinci. Then, where did Dad find out about this secret? I have my own channels. I know you have a lot of questions to ask me. I've said that I'll tell you when I come back. Be careful and kill Kirsten. I will. That's all for now. Take care. Xia Changhe hung up. Charlotte was stunned for a few seconds before he returned the call to Akiko Tsukino. Last night. Akiko Tsukino had a strange expression on her face. Did you have fun? Charlotte hesitated for a moment before he said, When we return, I'll accompany you to the place where you practice swordsmanship. Let's spar. What do you think? This was a secret signal between the two of them. The pond on the mountain behind Rema Group was where Akiko Tsukino practiced swordsmanship. When he was in China, Akiko Tsukino would always ask him to go to the mountain to spar whenever she missed him. Of course, it was hard to say what kind of spar they would spar with. Akiko Tsukino smiled and suddenly kissed Charlotte on the cheek. This time, Charlotte was touched. Akiko Tsukino turned to leave and said, Wake her up. We'll leave after dinner. Charlotte smiled. Okay. Women and children were probably the only things that could make him relax and happy. Chapter 1196. From the time he first arrived in China, it had been a peaceful journey. Zhu Xianyue had copied Da Vinci, whose family was mysterious and powerful, and could influence the decisions of the United States. This was bad news for the whole world, but it was good news for Charlotte. As long as Zhu Xianyue was unwilling, neither the CIA, the FA organization, nor even the Pentagon could do anything to him. The reason was simple. How could anyone who went against Zhu Xianyue end up well? The war that happened in the Forest of No Return was reported by the media, and China also protested. However, the result was not surprising, and Boca Sacred Land became the scapegoat. The United States denied it, and Boca Sacred Land also claimed responsibility. No matter how much evidence the Wanxiang Group had, it was useless. The trip to Nigeria seemed to be a milestone. After returning to China, neither Charlotte nor Rema Group encountered any more trouble. Whether it was at home or abroad, everything calmed down. However, Charlotte knew that this should be the last calm. The prehistoric only gave him 3 years, and Zhu Xianyue was also waiting for this time. That day was the day of his death, and now he had one less day to live. Once that day came, he would also usher in the strongest storm of his life. Therefore, this was also the calm before the storm. Even so, after returning to China, Charlotte still plunged into the research of Rema Group's super fighter and strategic bomber. This was also his last wish before the end of his life. He wanted to contribute his last strength to this country and people. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Ping and residence. Dad! Xia Fan pushed open the door of the study and ran in. Her blushing face was full of grievance. Brother bullied me. Charlotte put down the work in his hands, got up, and walked toward her. He said with a smile, "Which brother bullied our little Fan? Tell Dad, Dad will criticize him." Brother Xiaolong, Xia Fan said in a childish voice, "I was drawing on the ground in the yard, and he peed on my painting." Charlotte. At this moment, Xiaolong poked his head out from the door, looking a little guilty. "Dad, I just wanted to add a river to my sister's painting." Then he said, "I'm so obedient, can you bear to criticize me?" Charlotte. Before the conflict between Xia Fan and Xiaolong could be resolved, Liang Jiyu and Xia Jianghe walked in. "Daddy." Liang Jiyu frowned. "Xia Jianghe broke my toy." Xia Jianghe said, "Dad, Brother Jiyu broke my doll." The 4 brats quarreled in the study. Charlotte's head swelled little by little, and he began to feel dizzy. Normal children couldn't even speak when they were half a year old, let alone quarreling while walking, but his children were already drawing, playing with toys, and quarreling. What made him not know whether to laugh or cry was that he had to mediate similar disputes several times a day. "Can't you all just get along? Share toys, play games together, must you all fight?" Charlotte acted like a strict father, not siding with anyone, and criticized all 4 brats. "Brother Xiaolong is clearly in the wrong." Xia Fan said. "I didn't do anything wrong, I just wanted to add a river to your painting," Xiaolong said. "You pay for my toy," Liang Jiyu said. "You pay for my doll," Xia Jianghe said. What a strict father, there was no dignity at all. The 4 brats continued to quarrel. Charlotte hugged his head and said to himself, "God, save me." Tang Yuyan suddenly walked in from the door. "Hey, what are you all doing? Quarreling in your father's study so early in the morning, you'll affect his work." Charlotte prayed to a god to save him, and the god sent him a goddess. Tang Yuyan's belly was already slightly protruding. She spent less time going to innings 101 now, and most of the time, she was in Ping and residence, commanding remotely. If it was someone else, it would definitely not work, but she was pregnant with Charlotte's child, so she could. The higher-ups of the country already knew how smart Charlotte's children were. Every time Charlotte gave birth to a child, it was equivalent to giving birth to a super talent for the country, who would complain about having too many. How could they not protect them well? Tang Yan placed a cup of oolong tea on Charlotte's desk, and said gently, "Honey, it's just been brewed, it's a little hot, you can drink it later." Charlotte smiled and nodded. "Wunyang," Xiaolong said, "have you seen my mother?" Tang Yuyan said, "Yes, she's outside." Speaking of Long Bing walked in. "Little Long, why are you looking for your mother?" "Mother, I'm hungry." Xiaolong spread his little arms and ran to Long Bing. "Mother, I want milk." Long Bing was embarrassed. "You've been running all over the place, and it's good enough to just eat. You still want milk? I'm not giving it to you." "No, I want to eat, I want to eat." Xiaolong rolled on the ground and begged. Long Bing had no choice but to lift up her clothes and feed Xiaolong milk. "Sanyang, I want to eat too." Liang Jiyu anxiously walked in front of Long Bing and looked at Xia Lei, who was eating with relish. He was extremely envious. A few black lines appeared on Long Bing's forehead. "Go find your mother, I don't have any left." Liang Jiyu pouted. "There's still one left." Long Bing was at a loss for words. At this moment, Jiang Rui, Liang Xiao, and Fan Fan came in. The whole family was gathered in the study. The other 3 children wanted milk, and the 3 mothers lifted up their clothes to feed them. The study was filled with the sound of slurping, and the beautiful scenery made them even more excited. "Yuyen, your belly is bigger now. How are you feeling?" Long Bing asked. Tang Yuan said with a smile. I just feel a little bloated and a little clumsy. My movements are not as nimble as before. That's for sure. You have another child in your belly, so you can't be as nimble as before. You should exercise less, Long Bing said with concern. Tang Yuan smiled at Long Bing. Honey, how's your research on the plane? Liang Xiao asked Charlotte. Charlotte said, It's finished today. So soon? Fan Fan was surprised. That's a fighter plane and a bomber plane. Charlotte smiled. It's just the blueprints and software. It'll take at least a year to build the Yama fighter plane and the Kuanping bomber plane at the same time. Fan Fan's eyes were full of admiration. I'm afraid you're the only one in the world who can do this. Our country has been developing fighter planes for decades, but we've always been stuck at the stage of imitation. We've been restricted in every way. But you've ended this humiliating history. I'll make a call right now and tell the chief the good news. He'll be very happy. Xia Fan didn't agree. Mom, wait until I'm full. You child. Fan Fan slapped Xia Fan's butt, but she didn't take out her phone to make the call. In her heart, the child's feeding was as important as the country's affairs. Xia Long raised his head from Long Bing's embrace and said, When I grow up, I must study a milk that can't be finished no matter how much I eat. Long Bing was stunned. Then she slapped Xia Long's butt. You little brat, why are you researching that kind of thing? To eat. Xia Long said confidently. Long Bing slapped Xia Long's butt again. What else do you want to learn? Learn from your father. Charlotte was unjustly implicated. Xia Zhenghe raised her head from Jiang Rui's arms. Milk stains were still on the corners of her mouth. Dad, why do we have so many mothers in our family, while others only have one? Charlotte was also stunned. He couldn't answer this question. Children who were too smart could also be troublesome. In this family, these children could figure out the situation before they were a year old. At that time, as a father, he still couldn't explain to his children why they had so many mothers, while others only had one. Honey, have a sip of tea. It's getting cold. Tang Yuan handed the teacup to Charlotte. Charlotte bit the bullet and took a sip. His stomach suddenly turned, and it was very uncomfortable. He then put the teacup down again and changed the topic. It had been more than 3 months, and his normal disgust for food had reached a very serious level. At first, he didn't have any symptoms of nausea toward tea, but now the reaction was very strong. Fortunately, he didn't have a strong reaction to energy bars, which was why he hadn't hunted for food until now. Since he took the last AE capsule, he had only hunted for a large python in that small forest in Africa. He didn't prey on his own kind and become a demon. Honey, will it affect your work if we feed the child here? Jiang Rui asked. Charlotte smiled and said, It won't affect me. Watching you feed the child can make my mind more active. In fact, his brain was always working, even when he was with his woman and children. Jiang Rui spat lightly. I knew you would say that. Don't say such things in front of the child in the future. It will lead the child astray. Xia Zhenghe raised her little head from her granary and rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Bad father. Charlotte was speechless. The study was filled with laughter. The more joyful the atmosphere, the sadder Charlotte felt. How he wished he could see his children grow up, see them get married, become their children's grandfather, and love their mother until they grew old. However, he didn't have much time left. He wouldn't be able to see them grow up. Ring ring ring, ring ring ring, Tang Yuyan's phone suddenly rang. She picked it up. It's me. A man's voice came from the phone. Don't you have to go to work now? There's something important happening internationally. Come back for a meeting. This was Tang Buchuan's voice. Charlotte heard it very clearly. The tone of Tang Buchuan's voice made Charlotte very uncomfortable. Tang Buchuan was Tang Yuyan's subordinate, but he spoke to Tang Yuyan like a boss. I'll be right there. Tang Yuan hung up the phone and said to Charlotte, "Honey, I'm going back to innings 101 for a meeting." "Go ahead. Call me if you need anything," Charlotte said. Tang Yuan said goodbye to the other four women and then left. Charlotte put away the hacker's computer and said, "I'm going to the company for a meeting. Tomorrow, Rema Group will start manufacturing the first Hades fighter and Kunpeng bomber." "So soon?" Fan Fan couldn't believe Charlotte's decision. "The sooner the better. I'm leaving." Charlotte took the laptop out of the door. Jiang Ri said, "Come back for lunch. I'll cook something delicious for you." Charlotte said in a hurry, No, I don't think I can come back. You guys eat. Don't worry about me." Eating had become the most painful thing for him now. Chapter 1197. After a meeting that only the core members of Rema Group attended, Charlotte went to the fighter workshop in the new factory area with Anina and Sylvia. The two fighter workshops, one belonging to Yama and the other to Kunpeng, were built with money, manpower, and equipment provided by the state. Only with the intervention of the state could such a fighter workshop be built in just a few months. The two fighter workshops were also the largest workshops of Rema Group, and they would undoubtedly become the heart and fist of China's Air Force. Entering Yama's workshop, the workshop was spacious and bright, and hundreds of workers were debugging the assembly line. It was a busy scene. "Lucas, are you sure you want to start the production plan tomorrow?" Sylvia asked Charlotte for the third time. "I'm sure," Charlotte said. "I don't have that much time to wait." Anina looked at Charlotte curiously. "Lucas, what do you mean?" Charlotte smiled. "Nothing, I'm just anxious to build our Yama and Kunpeng. Ask the workers to work overtime, 4 hours, and pay them triple the salary." "That's a lot of money," Anina reminded. "Money isn't a problem," Charlotte said. "The workers have worked hard and they should be rewarded." Anina shrugged. "All right, I'll tell them. The workers will definitely be happy. 4 hours of overtime a day for triple the salary, no one would refuse such a job. The families of the workers would probably be happy too. After all, it was a lot of money, and it could improve the lives of their families. All right, the workers aren't a problem, our assembly line is almost done, and the equipment that needs to be improved has also been improved. However, it's not easy to build a fighter plane. A fighter plane or bomber needs tens of thousands of parts, and we need the blueprints of Yama and Kunpeng, the standards for the parts, the software, and everything else. Have you prepared all of these?" "I've prepared all of these, and I'll give you everything you need later," Charlotte said. "That's great, we'll contact the bases in Haizhu and Shu after we get them, and ask them to produce the parts for us," Sylvia said. Sylvia said, "If the two sub-bases can't produce it, we can purchase it from the market and refine it to the standard we need." "No, we won't buy the parts from the market this time, so we'll make the parts ourselves with X mystical gold," Charlotte said. "X mystical gold? Oh my God, isn't that too much?" Anina looked surprised. "The US has a Dragon Slayer project, and Lockheed Martin is researching a super fighter plane called Dragon Slayer. I believe that our Yama will fight with it eventually," Charlotte said. "We can't take any of the inferior parts on the market, and we'll make the most perfect fighter plane in the world." "All right then. Looks like I'll be busy for a while." Sylvia looked helpless, but her heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. If they used X mystical gold to build fighter planes and bombers, then Yama and Kunpeng would undoubtedly be the kings of the sky in the future. The United States was indeed in an all-round leading position in the field of fighter jets and bombers. The Dragon Slayer designed by Lockheed Martin must also be a product that integrated the most advanced technology of the entire United States. Even so, it could not surpass Yama and Kunpeng. The reason was simple. Although the US had more advanced technology and manufacturing experience, it didn't have the Thunder Dragon smart machine tool that Rema Group had. More importantly, the designer of the Dragon Slayer superfighter plane was Kirsten, who was a replica of Da Vinci, and his IQ wasn't as high as Charlotte's, and he didn't have Charlotte's super brain, which was almost comparable to a supercomputer. Of course, this was just the analysis on paper. The US had its own advantages and strengths, and the final result would only be confirmed after they created Yama and Kuan Pung and fought with the Dragon Slayer. Lucas, will you work overtime with us? Sylvia looked at Charlotte with anticipation and ambiguity. Charlotte could read all the information contained in her eyes. He smiled and said, "Of course I'll work overtime with you guys. Some of the core components can't be done without me." "That's great." Sylvia gave Charlotte a hug excitedly. Anina also came over to hug Charlotte and whispered in his ear, "I've been looking forward to working overtime with you for a long time." Charlotte knew what the two German girls wanted, and he had to satisfy them. Only then would they do their best for Rema Group. They weren't China people, and they didn't have a sense of belonging to China, let alone love it. The reason why they were still working at Rema Group was because of him. If he didn't satisfy their desires, how could they do their best? Beep beep, beep beep. As soon as he finished hugging Anina, Charlotte's satellite phone rang. It was Tang Yuyan. Her voice was full of anxiety and worry. "Honey, are you still at home?" Charlotte said, "I'm at the company." "What happened?" "Something happened. A group of experts came and told us some things, and then they asked to see you," said Tang Yuyan. Charlotte suddenly had a bad premonition. He said, "What kind of group of experts is that? What did they talk to you about? Why did they ask to persuade me?" "They didn't tell me why they wanted to see you," I asked, "but they said it was confidential. As for other things, you can come over first." "I'll tell you when we meet," said Tang Yuyan. "Okay, I'll be right there." Charlotte hung up the phone. "What happened?" asked Sylvia. Charlotte said, "I don't know. I'll go and have a look. Call me if anything happens." "All right," said Sylvia. Anina asked, "Will it affect our plan?" Charlotte said, "No, no matter what happens, it won't affect our plan." An hour later, 101 innings. The beast-like Knight 15 arrived at 101 innings. Before he could stop, Tang Yuyan went up to him. She had a big belly and walked like a penguin. Charlotte hurriedly stopped the car and walked to her. He said worriedly, "You shouldn't have come to pick me up if it's not convenient for you. It's not like I don't know the way. What if I hurt the baby?" Tang Yuyan felt sweet in her heart. She smiled and said, "I'm not that delicate. I'll be fine if I walk a little. Don't be so nervous." "Of course, you're pregnant with my son." Charlotte hugged her waist, his eyes full of tenderness and love. "Are you sure it's a son?" Tang Yuyan curled up the corner of her mouth. "But I prefer a daughter." "Then it's a daughter," said Charlotte. Tang Yuyan, arriving at the headquarters of 101 innings, Charlotte met the group of experts that Tang Yuyan had mentioned. The head of this group of experts was a middle-aged man named Yang Changhai. He was tall and thin and wore old-fashioned glasses. He gave people the feeling that he was a university professor. Charlotte also saw his brother-in-law, Tang Buchuan. However, he didn't greet Tang Buchuan. He only greeted Yang Changhai. "Hello, Chief Yang." Yang Changhai also came over to shake hands with Xia Lei, and he was the one who took the initiative to extend his hands. His tone was also very polite. "Mr. Xia, I'm not considered a chief here, you can just call me Big Brother Yang." "Haha, you're not old. We've become friends, Brother Yang," Charlotte said with a smile. "Okay, let's be friends, Mr. Xia." "Brother Yang, don't call me Mr. Xia. Just call me Charlotte. You can also call me Little Xia." "I don't dare to call you Little Xia. I'll call you Charlotte," Yang Changhai said with a smile. "Everyone says that you're a rare talent in our nation for thousands of years. Seeing you today, you're really extraordinary. You're a talent." The two of them exchanged a few polite words and sat down. Tang Buchuan interrupted, "Charlotte, when are you going to bring Yu Yen back for a meal?" We all miss Yu Yan, especially my mother. She cries when she thinks of Yu Yan. Charlotte smiled. If he hadn't heard Tang Buchuan speak to Tang Yuyan in that tone on the phone, he might have believed it. Now that Tang Buchuan said such words in front of him, if he still believed that the Tang family had forgiven Tang Yuyan and had no other intentions, then he was really a fool. Then I'll take it that you've agreed. How about tonight? Tang Buchuan said with a smile. Tang Yuyan frowned. From her expression, it was clear that she didn't want to go back. Charlotte saw it and understood very well in his heart. Tang Buchuan spoke to Tang Yuyan in that tone on the phone, without any respect or affection. Tang Buchuan was like this. How could Tang Tianlong and Tang Yunhai's attitude towards Tang Yan be good? Well, let's do this. Charlotte then spoke to his brother-in-law. If you want Yu Yan, then come to Ping'anju. I'm not free during this time, so I can't accompany Yu Yan back to her parents' home. Then Yu Yan can go back. A gleam of displeasure flashed through Tang Buchuan's eyes. Tang Yuyan was about to say something, but Charlotte said before she could, Yu Yan is not free either. She has to make dinner for me after work. You! Tang Buchuan was instantly furious. Who dared to disrespect the future head of the Tang family? But in front of Xia Lei, his brother-in-law, he was not even worth a fart. What made him even angrier was that he didn't dare to do anything to Charlotte even though he had been humiliated like this. Brother, Tang Yuyan said, I don't want to go back. If my parents and grandpa really miss me, they can come to Pingan Street to see me. Humph! Tang Buchuan snorted. You've grown up now, haven't you? You don't even care about your parents and grandpa now, do you? I didn't mean that at all, Tang Yuyan said. Then why don't you go back? Tang Buchuan's tone was very firm, as if he was a brother lecturing his sister. Tang Yuyan wanted to say something, but she didn't say it out. In fact, she knew very well why her parents and grandpa wanted her to go back. She was pregnant now, and her parents and grandpa probably wanted Charlotte to make a will and get the original shares of Rema Group. And she didn't even want to mention it now. She just wanted to be with Charlotte and give birth to the child. Say something. Tang Buchuan continued to put pressure on Tang Yuyan. Bang! Charlotte slapped the table and said coldly, Tang Buchuan, why are you so fierce? Tang Buchuan suddenly felt a little guilty, but he bit the bullet and said, I'm talking to my sister. As her brother, I asked her to go home to see her father and grandpa. Is it wrong? Charlotte said coldly, She is my woman, and she is pregnant with my child. If you scare my child, can you afford to pay for it? I don't think it's enough even if you give me the whole Tang family. There was a threat in this sentence. Tang Buchuan was extremely unwilling, but he didn't dare to talk back to Charlotte at all. Who could afford to offend Charlotte now? The atmosphere in the meeting room became awkward. Yang Changhai glanced at Tang Buchuan and then said, Chief Tang, please leave for a while. Tang Buchuan looked very surprised. He didn't expect such a thing to happen at all. Yang Changhai said, Chief Tang, I'm very sorry. What we're going to talk about next requires a high enough level and authority to know. This sentence was actually very polite. If it was not polite and said it out loud, it would mean that his level was not high enough, and he would ask him to leave. Tang Buchuan was stunned for a moment, then he got up and left. When he went out, he slammed the door heavily. This was a performance of immaturity, he was very clear, but he couldn't help it at all. Chapter 1198. Yu Yan, I'm sorry, Charlotte said apologetically. I couldn't see him force you or bully you, so I couldn't help it. Tang Yuyan held Charlotte's hand from under the table. Hubby, I'm fine. You don't have to apologize to me. I know what they want to do. Well, let's talk business. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Brother Yang, my brother-in-law doesn't know any better. He's made a fool of himself in front of you. Yang Changhai said, It's okay. Who doesn't have some family matters to deal with? Well, let's talk business. Brother Yang, go ahead, Charlotte said. Yang Changhai said, before I talk, please watch a video. A member of the expert team took out a laptop and placed it in front of Charlotte and Tang Yuyan. Then, he played the video that had been prepared beforehand. The location of the video was the Forest of No Return in Nigeria, a mine of the Friendship Mining Company. Charlotte was no stranger to this place. He recognized it at a glance. The mine was filled with black stone bricks. Those were the stone bricks of the underground pyramid. Loading trucks were transporting the black stone bricks onto the Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft. This transport aircraft was the largest strategic transport aircraft produced by Lockheed Martin Corporation. It had a maximum takeoff weight of 379 tons and could carry more than 200 tons of cargo. It was the largest transport aircraft in the world. It was not just one Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft. There were more than 10 Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft parked in the mine. At the end of the mine, a newly built runway appeared on the display. In order to transport the black stone bricks away, the United States had built a runway for this purpose. On both sides of the runway, tanks and armored vehicles could be seen everywhere, as well as fully armed Special Forces soldiers. The former Friendship Mining Company had become a military base. Charlotte thought to himself, could it be that the underground pyramid is no longer useful to Zhu Xianyue? So she demolished it? What does she want to do by demolishing the pyramid? Extract rare metals for Kirsten to build the Dragon Slayer? If so, why does she want the Dragon Slayer? The scene suddenly changed to the Forest of No Return. Several construction machines were digging holes in the forest. There were thousands of corpses beside an undug pit. Some were young, some were old, and some were children. Beside the pit that had yet to be dug, there were 2 other pits that had already been dug. Construction machines were filling the pits with soil. The pits were filled with corpses, and they were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them all. These were 3 graves of 10,000 people. The scene changed again, this time to a slum in New Delhi, India. Several epidemic prevention personnel were using spray guns to disinfect the slums. Corpses could be seen everywhere on the screen. A child walked and fell to the ground, never to get up again. His mother wept beside him, heartbroken. The epidemic prevention personnel numbly sprayed the disinfectant on the woman's body, and then walked past her and the child. In another part of the slums, a group of people suddenly went crazy and attacked their compatriots without warning. There were men, women, and even children in the group. They used stones and wooden sticks to smash people to death. Some even did things that were worse than beasts to women. The scene changed for the 3rd time, and the ground became a small city in Mexico. The Mexican army and police blocked the city, not allowing anyone to enter or leave. On a road in the blockade, some people tried to rush out, but were mercilessly shot. The road was full of people's cars, some of which could be seen with corpses. A girl carrying a school bag walked to the blockade, crying. But before she could get close, she fell to the ground and never got up again. Behind her, a group of people were attacking another group of people in a frenzy, without warning. The scene was bloody. The video ended here. Charlotte's back was numb. Tang Yuyan's feelings were not much better. She grabbed Charlotte's hand, unable to suppress the fear and nervousness in her heart. Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, "Brother Yang, this video it was taken by our spies." Yang Changhai said, "Different spies, different videos. We combined these videos together to make this video. For this video we have sacrificed 5 spies. Spies were different from special agents. Spies lurked in a certain environment to carry out secret missions, which were usually long-term and hidden. Yang Changhai mentioned spies and sacrificed 5 spies, so this team of experts had actually targeted them long ago." Charlotte's eyes moved to Yang Changhai. He hesitated to steal the information in Yang Changhai's brain. If it was an enemy or someone he didn't know, he would have done so. However, Yang Changhai was obviously one of them. It was not a glorious thing to casually steal information from someone else's brain. After hesitating for a moment, Charlotte gave up for the time being. He decided to observe and listen to Yang Changhai's words before making a decision. He said, "Brother Yang, can you tell me what your team of experts is targeting? When was it established?" Yang Changhai said, "Our team of experts was established before you established Rema Group. It's called the Dawn Office. I'm the director of this office. We are targeting ancient alloys, and of course we also include the members of the expert team who died mysteriously." Charlotte understood. The country had never given up on the research of ancient alloys. For a period of time, he was even included in the research target. Later, he researched and manufactured the Scavenger Infantry Fighting Vehicle and the ZTZ-100 main battle tank. The benefits to the country far exceeded the benefits of researching him, so they stopped the research on him. Now it seemed that the Dawn office had been on the move. Otherwise, they wouldn't have obtained video information that even 101 innings couldn't get. Now that the Dawn office had surfaced and taken the initiative to find him, it was obvious that things had developed to a very critical point. Then, Charlotte thought of Zhu Xianyue. He couldn't help but have a question in his heart. Was this Zhu Xuanyue's plan? Had her kind come to this world? If so, it would be the end of the world. Yang Changhai said. The brains of the previous team of experts who studied ancient alloys quickly shrank and decayed after they died. The corpses in the video are the same. This kind of corpse has always been a clue we have been tracking. For a period of time, similar corpses appeared in the United States, and we specially investigated them. The Americans thought that there was a killer responsible for those murders, and the CIA gave the killer the code name Killer X. At first, we also thought so, a terrible killer. However, after watching this video, we don't think so. We think that there is an organization, an anti-human terrorist organization, and they have a terrible virus in their hands. This organization appeared after the appearance of ancient alloys, so we have reason to think that it is related to ancient alloys. Charlotte didn't speak, but his eyes had changed. He wanted to know what Yang Changhai knew, and he also wanted to know the situation of the people in the Dawn office and the extent of the investigation. According to Yang Changhai's description, the investigation and judgment of the Dawn office were actually very reliable. Charlotte, you are a person who studies ancient alloys. I believe you must know something. We came to you to get some information from you. As you can see, things have developed to a very critical point. At present, the virus is only spreading in India, Mexico, and Nigeria. It is difficult to guarantee that it will not spread to our country. Before that, we must be prepared to deal with it. In the time it took for Yang Changhai to speak, Charlotte had already finished stealing information from his brain. There were not many people in the Dawn office. There were archaeologists, biologists, physics experts, criminal investigation experts, and senior spies. That was Yang Changhai in front of him. He was the leader of the spies, and he reported directly to the leader. What surprised Charlotte was that Yang Changhai didn't hide anything from him. Everything he said was true. There was some information about peaceful in Yang Changhai's brain, but he didn't know much. After our analysis and research, we suspect that the organization and the virus are related to ancient alloys. Charlotte, you must remember someone. Yang Changhai looked straight at Charlotte. Charlotte knew that the person he was going to mention was peaceful, but he still asked, "Who?" "Peaceful." Yang Changhai said, "She was the only survivor of the entire expert team, but she disappeared inexplicably. We suspect that the organization used the virus to kill our experts, but Peaceful's body should have antibodies that are immune to the virus. She is very important to us. Do you know where she is?" Charlotte was silent for a moment before shaking his head. I don't know where she is. Peaceful, in a sense, had disappeared. She was now part of Zhu Xianyue. If she told the people in Dawn office that Zhu Xianyue was in America or Nigeria, it was the same as sending them to their death. Even he could not defeat an enemy, so how could Dawn office defeat it? We know you have many channels. Can you help us find her? That is not a problem. I will help you find Peaceful, Charlotte said. But I can't promise you that. It's good that you are willing to help. Do what you can, Yang Changhai said. Also, I want to know how far the research on ancient alloys has progressed. Charlotte smiled. Secret Gold X is the result of studying ancient alloys. It is a very impressive result. You can't expect me to get something all of a sudden, right? You have to give me some time. No problem. That is all. I look forward to your good news, Yang Changhai said. Then I will go back and arrange it. Charlotte shook Yang Changhai's hand and stood up to leave. Tang Yuyan left with him. In the conference room, the expert who played the video said, "Is what he said true?" Yang Changhai had a wry smile. "I don't know. I can't see anything on him. But our goal is to tell him what has happened. He knows what to do. He is the guardian of our country." Chapter 1199. Walking out of the conference room, Charlotte and Tang Yuyan entered her office. Beep beep, beep beep, Charlotte's satellite phone suddenly rang. It was Siamu who called. His voice was full of tension and anxiety. "Boss, something big happened." "What happened?" Charlotte had already guessed what he wanted to say. "Sure enough," Siamu said, "something big happened in Nigeria, India, and Mexico. Come back quickly. I have information for you." "I'll be back soon." Charlotte hung up the phone. China's intelligence system was definitely more efficient than Siamu's, so Dawn's office received the information first, and Siamu received it later. If nothing unexpected happened, he would also receive information from the Rescue Society. The Rescue Society's intelligence system operated slower than Siamu's. What happened? Tang Yuyan was full of worry. "I just saw the corpses in the video and those crazy people. I'm very scared." The fact that the director of 101 Innings was afraid showed the seriousness of the matter. Of course, the biggest reason why Tang Yuyan was afraid was the child in her belly. As long as a woman was pregnant with a child, she would become very timid. If Tang Yuyan were to fight with the enemy with a gun now, she would definitely not be as brave as before. Charlotte held her in his arms. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. I will protect you and the child." Tang Yuyan snuggled in Charlotte's arms for a while. "Honey, let's go back. I want to go home." "Well, let's go home." Charlotte suddenly picked up Tang Yuyan and left her office. Walking into the public office area, everyone's eyes focused on Charlotte and Tang Yuyan. The dignified director Tang curled up in Charlotte's arms like a little bird. This scene caused quite a shock in the hearts of the comrades. When did our chief Tang become so gentle? How rare. That depends on who it is. The man who hugged her is Charlotte, the owner of Rema Group. To be a man, you have to be like Charlotte. He married 5 wives, and the country even gave him special permission. What was more impressive was that his ex-wife was Shintu Tianyin, the richest woman in China. My house belongs to the Wanxiang Group. If only I could talk to Charlotte and ask him to waive my mortgage. In your dreams. Our director is a member of the Tang family. The Tang family. Shoo, be careful with what you say. Facing so many people's gazes and whispers, Charlotte and Tang Yuyan still went their own way. They didn't care about others' gazes at all. Tang Buchuan also saw this scene, and his face became hot. He felt that everyone was laughing at the Tang family. Their gazes and discussions were also a kind of mockery. The Tang family, which had hundreds of years of history, had become worthless in their eyes. They had become a joke. There was a trace of hatred in Tang Buchuan's heart. It was like a seed that was slowly germinating and growing root. Tang Yuyan didn't even go to work. She followed Charlotte back to Peace House. Charlotte went to the Holy Thunder Church. In the secret room of the church, he met the members of the Zodiac team and his 4 female knights. Both the members of the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights looked very serious. Saimu went straight to the point. "Boss, something has happened, and it's a big one." Charlotte said, "It's about India, Nigeria, and Mexico, right?" Saimu was slightly stunned. "You know about it?" Charlotte said, "I just came from innings 101. Their information came faster. However, they only showed me a video." "What information did you gather?" Saimu handed a file to Charlotte. "I have everything here. Take a look." Charlotte opened the file and took out everything inside. There were photos, hospital examination reports, investigation reports, and a USB flash drive in the file. The photos were also of towns and corpses. There were towns in Mexico, slums in India, and towns in Nigeria. There were no photos of the Forest of No Return or the Friendship Mining Company, but there were photos of towns in Nigeria. The photos were also of corpses and crazy people. The pictures were full of violence and blood. After looking at the photos, Charlotte looked at the reports written by the intelligence personnel. The content was the analysis and speculation made by the intelligence personnel based on what had happened. It was very unreliable. He also looked at the doctor's examination report that the intelligence personnel had obtained. There were examinations of the crazy people and autopsies of the corpses. The brains of the dead had one thing in common, which was atrophy and decay. Finally, Charlotte plugged the USB flash drive into his mobile phone and played the video file with the player on his mobile phone. The video showed a street with corpses lying on the street. There was garbage everywhere. It was like the street in Resident Evil, full of the smell of the end of the world. The person who shot the video walked on the street with a camera. As he walked, he described what he saw and how he felt. "God, I feel like I've come to the street of the end of the world. I can't see a living person. The air here is full of the smell of rotting corpses. I can't stand it. What happened here? God must know. Wait, what do you have? I'll go and have a look." The person who shot the video started to run, and the image in the video started to mix. A few seconds later, the camera suddenly caught a hyena. Hyenas were extremely ferocious beasts in the African animal world. Their combat power was no less than that of lions and tigers. The hyena that appeared in the video was an adult hyena with a huge body. It was squatting by the side of the road and eating the brain of a corpse. When the person who shot the video approached it, it suddenly raised its head. However, before it could pounce on new prey, the person who shot the video suddenly fell to the ground and never got up again. It gave people the feeling that he had suddenly died from a cerebral hemorrhage or a myocardial infarction. The hyena ran towards the person who shot the video, bit open his head, and then took out his brain. His brain had already shrunk and decayed, but the hyena seemed to like this kind of food the most. It swallowed it in one bite. This scene was captured by the camera that had fallen to the ground. The camera also captured the hyena's eyes. It was a pair of terrifying blood-red eyes. The hyena ate the brain of the person who shot the video and left. A lot of its fur had fallen off, revealing red flesh and blood. It looked especially disgusting. The video stilled and finally stopped. Charlotte's heart was filled with shock. He thought to himself, the person who shot the video wasn't attacked at all. Why did he suddenly die? And that hyena is fine? It ate the rotten brain and its body seems to be sick. But why did it eat food that it knew would make it sick? He could not understand these questions. When he was in innings 101, he saw the corpse in the video. His first reaction was that Zhu Xuanyue's kind had already come to this world. However, from what he had seen just now, the person in the video had not been attacked at all. He had suddenly died, and the speed at which his brain had shrunk and decayed was especially fast. If Zhu Xianwei and her kind had attacked him, they would have left some traces no matter what, but there was no trace. If it was not Zhu Xianwei and her kind who did it, then what was the reason? This is too scary. Siamu's face was pale. My people couldn't contact him, so they took the risk and entered the town. In the end, they found his body and this video. That brother died not long after he came back. Someone cut open his head, and in the end his head also shrunk and decayed. Damn, what kind of virus is this? The people in Dawn's office also thought that it was a virus. Under normal circumstances they would think so. However, Charlotte had a hunch that it was not a virus at all. If there was, it could only be the hyena. It was not the main cause of this incident. Boss, what do you think it is? Qian Jun's voice was heard. Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, I'm afraid this matter has something to do with that woman. Zhu Xianwei? Qian Jun's expression suddenly changed. Charlotte said, yes, it's her. I've told you some things about her. You should also know how dangerous she is. In short, don't worry about anything related to her. Don't we even need to investigate? Giovanna said, we have brothers and sisters in India, Nigeria, and Mexico. We can get more information. Charlotte said, no, let the brothers and sisters of the Rescue Association protect themselves. Don't go to the area where the accident happened. In addition, if you see any sick beasts, shoot them immediately. Don't approach them. Shoot beasts? Stella's voice was a little puzzled. Why shoot sick beasts? Charlotte said, you just saw that video, right? Everyone nodded in agreement. Charlotte then said, then you should remember that hyena. It specializes in eating the brains of the dead. As you can see, its fur is almost gone, revealing its flesh and blood. Under normal circumstances, it should be dead, but it is still alive. This is not normal at all. I suspect that it is infected with a virus. Don't let this infected animal get close to our people. I got it. I'll send the notice immediately. Giovanna went to the side to make a phone call. Boss, I can get you the corpse of an animal infected with the virus. You can study it. Once you study it, you will definitely make a lot of money. Siamu said. Charlotte flatly refused. Are you crazy? If you bring that infected animal to China and the virus spreads, it will be a disaster with the population density in China. I won't make that kind of money. Siamu closed his mouth. Developing a vaccine for the virus would indeed make a lot of money. Hundreds of billions of dollars wouldn't be a problem. But Charlotte didn't care about that kind of money at all. Then what do we do? Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte said, we don't need to do anything. We just do what we need to do. I'll build my plane and you continue your vacation. The members of the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights looked at each other. They couldn't believe that this was Charlotte's decision. In the past, every time a crisis came, he always had a strategy to deal with it. But this time, he didn't do anything. Was this his style? It wasn't that Charlotte didn't do anything. He just didn't want the Zodiac team and Giovanna to take risks. He would have a strategy to deal with it, and he was the only one who could carry it out. The reason was very simple. This matter was definitely related to Zhu Xianwei. In the face of an enemy like her, what could the Zodiac team and Giovanna do? They weren't on the same level at all. He had to deal with it himself. No one could help him. Chapter 1200. The end of his life had yet to come, but the crisis had already arrived. Murphy's Law had once again come true for Charlotte. Things had progressed in the worst possible direction. In the backyard of Ping and residence, Charlotte hesitated for a while before taking out the satellite phone given to him by Prehistoric only. He dialed the only number saved in his contact list. Do. No one picked up the phone even after 60 seconds. Damn it. He actually didn't pick up my call. Charlotte dialed the number again. This time, no one picked up the phone even after 60 seconds. The third time, the fourth time, Charlotte gave up. His heart was filled with anger and confusion. He must know the truth. He must have condoned Zhu Xuanyue's evil deeds. He didn't want to see me because he didn't want to tell me the truth. Wait, if it was Zhu Xuanyue's kind who came, he would definitely hide because he was no match for them. If it was because of this reason that he wanted to hide, before he hid, he should have come to see me once to remind me to be careful. Then, he would have asked me to fulfill the cooperation agreement between us or something. But he didn't even pick up my phone. What kind of situation is this? If Zhu Xuanyue's kind came, prehistoric only would be in a very dangerous situation. His wisest choice was to cooperate with Charlotte and share his information with Charlotte. Therefore, he would pick up the phone and even come to see him. If that was not the case, then he should have also picked up Charlotte's phone because he had previously said that if there was any news about Zhu Xuanyue, he should contact him and tell him. He couldn't understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. Charlotte returned to his study and took out his hacking computer. He didn't need Siamu and the Rescue Society's intelligence system to collect information for him. He also didn't need Tang Yuyan to share information on 101 innings with him because he had his own channels to obtain information. And that was Super Xiaoqian. In the past 3 months, not only did he write all the software programs needed by Hades and Kuan-Peng, he also finished writing Super Xiaoqian. Tonight, he was going to activate Super Xiaoqian. After waking up the hacker's computer, a beautiful woman's face appeared on the screen. This face was made from the faces of Fanfan, Liang Xiao, Long Bing, Jiang Rui, Tang Yuyan, and Shintu Tianyin. He chose the most beautiful parts of the 6 women and artificially synthesized a face. The sight of that face reminded him of his 6 women and their children. The faces receded, and the woman on the screen revealed her body. It was a perfect figure with 9 heads. She was tall and well-proportioned, with firm and plump breasts, plump and plump buttocks, well-proportioned and strong long legs. Her overall curves were graceful and attractive, and she was very sexy. Her body was made from the bodies of Akiko Tsukino, Anina, Sylvia, and Shalami. Seeing her body also reminded him of the women he had that kind of relationship with. Why did he do this? These women were the best gifts he had received in his life. Each of them had a story, a beautiful memory. He wanted to remember all of their good things in this way. In the future, even if he was no longer in this world, she would continue to exist in the virtual world. She was Super Xiaoqian. Charlotte's fingers tapped on the keyboard, typing in one command after another. Finally, he hit the enter key. Super Xiaoqian opened her eyes. She looked at Charlotte, and a synthesized voice came from the speaker of the hacker's computer. Face recognition. Recognition complete. Master, what do you need? Charlotte said lightly, enter the internet world. Execute command. Xiaoqian suddenly turned into countless light spots, shuttling through the blue world composed of zeros and ones, giving the feeling of a spaceship shuttling through a space-time tunnel. After a few seconds, the virtual tunnel formed by the blue zeros and ones disappeared, and Super Xiaoqian appeared on the screen again. She had a sweet smile on her face. Master, I have entered the internet world. It feels so strange, like I'm bathing in the ocean. Charlotte smiled. This sentence alone was enough to reflect Super Xiaoqian's attainments in artificial intelligence. She had feelings and emotions. Master, what are you smiling at? I'm telling the truth. Haven't you bathed in the ocean? Super Xiaoqian slightly pouted, looking very playful. Charlotte said, Of course I've bathed, but I haven't bathed in the internet world, so I'm not sure what it feels like. Although the internet world is a virtual world, aren't humans also sensory animals? A person's life is spent in all kinds of sensory stimuli and sensations. I also have such sensations, so there's no difference between the two. You're good at philosophy. Are you studying it? Yes, when I'm talking to you, I'm absorbing knowledge from the internet world. How's your learning speed? Charlotte asked. Super Xiaoqian said, 100 million bytes per second. Charlotte was shocked. With such a learning speed, she could almost grasp knowledge in a second that would take an ordinary person a lifetime to master. Master, do you want to test me? Charlotte shook his head. No need. After a pause, he said, tell me about my stock returns in the American stock market. Entering the stock market version of Xiaoqian entering. Super Xiaoqian said, Master, can I take over it? Its intelligence level is very low and it looks like a fool. If I take over it, work efficiency will be faster, and the operation of funds will be safer. Super Xiaoqian scolded the stock market version of Xiaoqian as a fool. This was clearly an act of bullying the weak, but this was the personality that Charlotte gave her, full of aggressiveness. Charlotte smiled bitterly. All right, if you think it's necessary, you can take over it. There's also the spy version of Xiaoqian. Can I take over it too? Super Xiaoqian seemed very greedy. No problem. Integrate them together, and you'll become stronger. Charlotte didn't object. The stronger Super Xiaoqian was, the more valuable it would be to him. I'm integrating them, Super Xiaoqian said with a smile. The blue background on the screen of the hacker's computer suddenly changed, and it turned into a restaurant. Super Xiaoqian, whose appearance and figure could be said to be perfect, was sitting at the table, enjoying a steak and a glass of red wine. On the steak, there were Chinese characters that said, stock market version of Xiaoqian, and the words, spy Xiaoqian, also appeared in the red wine in the goblet. Charlotte couldn't help but smile bitterly again. Is there a need to do this? You don't like it? No, Charlotte said. The image on the hacker's computer screen changed again, and it turned into a battlefield. Super Xiaoqian turned into a female knight, holding a knight's spear and a coat of arms shield as she charged forward. Behind her, thousands of troops and horses moved with a loud bang. The hooves of the horses shook the earth, and their roars and shouts soared into the sky. On the opposite side, two female knights also rushed over with thousands of troops and horses. In the enemy's formation, the horses of the two leading female knights had the words, stock market version of Xiaoqian, and spy Xiaoqian on them. In the blink of an eye, the two sides were fighting. The war horses' necks were broken, and the infantry was trampled into meat paste by the war horses. Swords flashed, and corpses were everywhere. In the end, Super Xiaoqian killed stock market version of Xiaoqian and spy Xiaoqian. The whole process of the battle lasted about 5 minutes, and in these 5 minutes, Charlotte undoubtedly watched a super large-scale epic movie. Super Xiaoqian produced such a large-scale artificial synthetic movie almost in an instant. Her ability was enough to make the best film special effects company in the world go out of business. However, apart from being a little shocked, Charlotte actually didn't have much interest. After all, he was not a director, nor was he a producer. What he needed was her ability as a hacker, not these abilities. He said, "Are you done playing? Give me what I want." Super Xiaoqian said, "Master, you now have 5,389 stock accounts, and the total assets in all the accounts add up to $13.3 billion. So much?" Charlotte was also surprised. In the past 3 months, he was busy studying Yama, Kuan-Peng, and Super Xiaoqian. He didn't pay attention to the stock market and Xiaoqian's operation in the stock market at all. He didn't expect that in these 3 months, Xiaoqian had turned his $3 billion into $13.3 billion. Stock market version of Xiaoqian is too weak. Super Xiaoqian showed a contemptuous smile. If it were me, Master, your assets would become $50 billion. Charlotte, the richest company in the world was Apple, with a market value of $700 billion. However, Super Xiaoqiang told him that she could earn $50 billion in 3 months, which meant that she could use the initial $3 billion to make an apple in the US stock market in 1 or 2 years. Because it wasn't a calculation problem of dividing 7,000 by 500 and then multiplying by 3. It was a snowball. The bigger the snowball, the greater the profit and the shorter the time needed. Of course, the probability of being discovered will increase, but I have a way to avoid the risk. Super Xiaoqian said, Master, according to my calculations, the longer the time, the safer it is. The shorter the time, the higher the risk. I need to know what your goal is. I mean, how much money do you want to make in how long? Charlotte thought for a moment. 1.5 years, $1 billion. Can you do it? The amount is not a problem, but the probability of being discovered is very high. Master, are you sure you want to do this? Super Xiaoqian said. 1.5 years, $1 billion. That was enough to set off a storm in the US stock market. 1.5 years was also the end of his life. Why would he care about the probability of being discovered? Since he wanted to go crazy, he would go crazy one last time before he left this world. Charlotte said almost without thinking, regardless of the probability of being discovered, I want you to make a bomb with the money you made from the US stock market and detonate it when I need it. I understand. Hunting down America's capital and attacking America's economy is just a piece of cake. Super Xiaoqian was very confident. You have to be careful. There is a system like you in the US. It is called the God system. It will be your opponent. Charlotte said. Super Xiaoqian said, I will defeat it. I am the queen of the internet. It is just an idiot. Charlotte smiled. Don't touch it yet. First, collect information about the virus epidemic in Mexico, India, and Nigeria for me. I want to know what happened in these 3 countries and how the authorities are dealing with it. Yes, Master. Super Xiaoqian gave Charlotte a classic lady's bow. The screen on the hacker's computer suddenly changed. A farmland appeared. Super Xiaoqian, with a white towel wrapped around her head, wearing a floral short-sleeved shirt and coarse shorts, was waving her hoe and digging potatoes. How was this Super Xiaoqian, the queen of the internet? She was simply a village girl from northern Shaanxi. Under the scorching sun, Super Xiaoqian's body was covered in sweat. Every time she waved her hoe, her perky buttocks and overly full breasts would sway and sway. It's so hot. Super Xiaoqian wiped her sweat. Master, why did you make my breasts so big? They become a burden when I work. Xia Lei's jaw hit the ground with a thud. Now, he didn't know what kind of demon he had created. Chapter 1201. Every time Super Xiaoqian dug a potato, a description would appear next to the field. The description was specific to a certain piece of information. For example, a description from the Nigerian Intelligence Department. The hellhound virus has spread, and there is no vaccine to prevent the spread of the virus. The support from the Americans is insignificant. According to reliable sources, the Americans have secret contacts with Boko Holy Land. On the surface, the Forest of No Return is controlled by the Boko Holy Land armed group, but the Americans are actually in control of the area. For example, a report from the Indian Epidemic Prevention Department. The hellhound virus first originated in Nigeria. According to the research of experts sent to Nigeria for support and research on the virus was produced from African hyenas. Once a person is infected with the virus, they will go crazy, similar to rabies. However, the current rabies vaccine cannot suppress the virus at all. The hellhound virus is also far more dangerous than rabies. At present, we have found 3,500 cases, and it is difficult to estimate the number of undiscovered cases. The slums with poor health conditions have become the hardest hit areas. For example, a report from the Mexican Health Department. Since the outbreak of the hellhound virus, we have found 2,300 cases in our country. They have been forcibly quarantined, but there are still new cases. This virus is currently only spreading in Mexico, Nigeria, and the United States, which is next to our country, has not found a single case of hellhound virus. After digging for a while, Super Xiaoqian stopped. There was a large pile of potatoes in the field, and her floral shirt was also soaked with sweat. The white fabric with blue flowers had become transparent because of the sweat, and the content inside could be vaguely seen. The towering mountain was tall and straight, and the pink area on the top of the mountain was also vaguely revealed, stirring one's heart. Super Xiaoqian wiped the sweat off with the white towel on her head, then threw away the hoe. It's done. I'm exhausted. Charlotte looked at her, speechless. Why did you have to simulate all this? Super Xiaoqian said. You don't like it? Charlotte said with a hint of hypocrisy. I don't like it. Super Xiaoqian shrugged. That can't be helped. You created me and you gave me this personality. My personality will affect my human behavior. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, should I tell her that her personality is actually based on the characteristics of my Fanfan, Liang Xiao, Long Bing, Jiang Rui, Tang Yuyan, and Shintu Tianin? Forget it. She will probably get worse if I tell her. If I had known, I would have made her into a man. A man shouldn't be so troublesome, right? Even though he was thinking this, his expression was still serious as he said, all right, tell me the result. Super Xiaoqian said, I've collected relevant information from all over the world. I've also hacked into the relevant agencies and departments in Mexico, India, and Nigeria. Other than the United States, I haven't touched them. The virus has not spread to other countries and regions, Super Xiaoqian said. I have collected relevant information from all over the world. I have also invaded the relevant institutions and departments in Mexico, India, and Nigeria. Among the three countries, Nigeria has the highest number of infected and death. So far, 5,689 people have been infected and 4,174 have died. Next is India, 3,569 people have been infected and 2,385 have died. Finally, Mexico, 2,312 people have been infected and 1,183 have died. What else? All three countries have received funding from the United States. The United States has given them a certain amount of money and professionals to help with vaccine research. However, the Americans are not really helping. There are signs that they just want to buy time and put pressure on the three countries. The hellhound virus broke out a week ago, but no media has reported it. That's why the United States government is putting pressure on the Mexican, Nigerian, and Indian governments. Charlotte said, it's impossible to reach the level of a complete blockade, right? Nowadays, mobile phones are very useful. A simple Twitter or Facebook message can be released. The United States government can put pressure on the governments of those three countries, but can they stop people from using mobile phones to send things? Super Xiaoqian said, it's true that they can't, but the Internet is a product of the United States. The main server number A is also in Virginia, and the other 9 auxiliary servers are also in the United States. Only 3 auxiliary servers are in Britain, Japan, and Sweden, and these 3 countries are allies of the United States. The United States has full control of the Internet. Now that God has entered the main server number A, its tentacles are everywhere. As long as there is relevant information, it will immediately turn into the kind of blushing pictures and infect people's mobile phones with viruses. When she said, those pictures that make people blush, Super Xiaoqian actually blushed a little, looking like a shy and cute virgin. If she was not a virtual being, but a real woman with flesh and soul, she would definitely be a seductive vixen. When Super Xiaoqian said this, the impossible became possible. The United States government put pressure on the Mexican government, the Indian government, and the Nigerian government to let the governments of the three countries control the paper media, and the natural system control the internet, suppressing the news. Go on. I've seen all the research materials on the hellhound virus in the three countries, and some of their deductions about the sudden outbreak of this virus. Super Xiaoqian said, Indians think that the Nigerians spread the virus to India, but some people in India oppose this view, because the Nigerians mostly go to Turkey and Europe, but there are no cases of infection in those places. Why did it happen in India? The Mexicans also said the same thing at the beginning, pointing the finger at the Nigerians, but for the same reason, this discriminatory speculation was eventually put aside. The Nigerians think that the outbreak of the hellhound virus was caused by drought and war, and the responsibility should be placed on the Boko Haram militants. Blaming each other and suspecting each other, this was the current situation in the three countries where the hellhound virus broke out. Behind these three countries, he had the great figure of the Americans. Charlotte was perplexed. The hellhound virus has only spread in India, Nigeria, and Mexico. There aren't any cases in other countries or regions. What's going on? Master, I haven't found the origin of the hellhound virus, and no organization has claimed to have developed a vaccine for it. There are many mysteries surrounding this matter, and I need more time to investigate. Please allow me to attack the American Intelligence Network and the related research institute. Super Xiaoqian's eyes shone with excitement. She was already itching to fight against the heavenly god system. Do you know what kind of opponent you're facing? Super Xiaoqian said, Of course I do. Its clones can be seen everywhere on the internet. It's constantly replicating itself and spreading like a virus through the entire internet. I found its clones in the computers of the residents in Whitestag. It wants to steal information about Rema Group. Rema Group wasn't connected to the internet and only had its own internal network. Even the God system couldn't hack into that network. That was why it planted clones in the computers of the residents near Whitestag to steal user data and even secretly take pictures of them. Naturally, it wouldn't be able to steal any of Rema Group's core secrets, but it would still be able to obtain some useful information through the conversations of the workers and residents. Master, I have even worse news for you. What is it? The God system has planted clones in the phones of some of Rema Group's employees. Some of Rema Group's secrets have already been leaked. Xia Lei's expression changed instantly, and his heart was burning with anger. The Americans had used the convenience of having their servers in America to plant God in them. That was basically turning the internet into a mining ground where they could beat up whoever they wanted and take whatever they wanted. Master, make a decision. Super Xiaoqian said, We can't wait any longer. If we wait any longer, we'll suffer even greater losses. Charlotte said, Then do it. First, get rid of the God system's clones around Rema Group. Most importantly, get rid of the clones in the phones of the employees. After that, you can fight it however you want, regardless of the consequences. Yes, my king. Super Xiaoqian suddenly stood at attention and saluted Charlotte. The image on the hacker's laptop suddenly changed. The next time Super Xiaoqian appeared, she was wearing a military uniform and holding a baton. Her figure was accentuated by the uniform. She had a voluptuous figure and a voluptuous butt, making her look very sexy. Her expression, however, was cold and stern. She no longer looked like a sweet woman and had turned into an iron-blooded general. Behind her was a replica of her. There were rows and rows of clones. There was no end to them, and it was impossible to count how many of them there were. Their bodies were the same as her, and their appearances were the same. The only difference was that they were holding Gale assault rifles in their hands. The identical Gale assault rifles formed a sea of black, and their large breasts and perky butts formed a strong contrast between steel and flesh, blood and tenderness. Super Xiaoqian turned around and waved the baton. She shouted, "Beautiful girl warriors! For our king, for our glory, charge!" The army of countless beautiful girls moved out with a loud bang. Their military boots stomped on the ground, making loud rumbling sounds. The sound shook the ground and shook the nerves of the people. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Why did they have to make such a big scene? Wouldn't it be better to just disappear in a flash? Super Xiaoqian and her super beautiful girl army disappeared, and the screen of the hacker's computer went black. However, just when Charlotte thought it was over and was about to close the monitor, a paragraph of Chinese characters suddenly appeared on the screen. "Master, today is Xiaoqian's first birthday. Can you sing a birthday song for me?" Charlotte, Super Xiaoqian, "All right, I'll take it that you've sung it. Good night." "Happy birthday," Charlotte said. A picture of the smiling faces of the audience appeared on the screen. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.